of the ashes, the spirits light up the night.
Now, we're live from the Untold Radio Network. It's Untold Radio AM with Monster Quest producer, host Doug Hajicek, and co-host Jeff Perrella Jr. Untold Radio AM is going live right now.
Hello.
Hey, Jeff.
Howdy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Untold Radio. I'm what's left of Doug Hajicek after my bout with the flu. Did you know I had the flu, Jeff?
Yeah, well, last week you did. But how did it take you a while to get over it?
I'm still not over it. There's no way. I've got another week probably. Still hacking a bit, but
it's no good.
It's all fine. I'm surviving. I've told people if it wasn't for my cough, I wouldn't be alive. Cough is what's keeping me going here.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I'm medicated up. Some people said, "Oh, I like Doug when he's on cold meds," so they're getting him again.
Well, you sound better than last week, except for the cough there.
Anyhow, but tonight we have a great show.
Yeah, lots for tonight.
Yeah, we've got some surprise guests, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know how that goes if they show up.
Yeah.
We've got Daniel Hamilton.
Yeah.
Who is a Minnesota guy that I've met. Another podcaster. He runs the Cryptid Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy. We hit it off. He lives literally down the road from me.
Yeah.
And so he'll be our guest, and we're going to talk about Minnesota monsters.
I'm looking forward to it.
Maybe we'll have some witnesses of Minnesota monsters.
Yeah. On
the show tonight. Maybe. In quotes. We got tech breakdown. We have the little untold news. We actually have a lot of news, so I'll just kind of pick the good stuff.
Yeah, we got a lot of material.
Yeah. We've got clip picks of the week. We got 5-minute witness, word of the week, and we got a new section called Signs Gone Wrong.
Should be a fun one.
Basically, and we've all seen signs that don't make sense, spelled wrong, or just are crazy.
Yeah.
We're going to cover all that. And then we'll get on to our guest. And we may bring our guests on early. I see Daniel's already in the back room.
Yeah, he's excited.
We could bring him on anytime here.
Yeah.
Which I may do. And then we're going to do tech breakdown too. So even that. So we're going to have to just get her on the way.
Yep. Let's
do her, Jeff.
You're right. First thing, here we go.
Signs gone wrong. Really wrong.
That's a fun new bumper. I like it.
So our first sign that's gone wrong is just kind of almost a dad joke.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty creative.
Hopefully everybody in chat can see it. Unlike last week, we had some issues. I think I got it sorted out.
Our mountains aren't just funny, they're hill areas. Isn't that just witty?
Yeah.
It makes you go, ha, ha, ha.
I think that's definitely a dad joke.
Yes, it's ha, ha. All right, we'll just keep these moving, Jeff. We got a lot of them. I love the naked invisible man on the left. That was a creative sign he left with a little can, so you can continue to donate money while he's not there.
Yeah.
What are those flip-flops he left?
That's clever.
Flip-flops.
Yeah.
And then wanted, boy steals flowers. He even brings his own scissors. Some neighbor was mad about a boy coming over and stealing flowers. My kids, in fact, it was Alex. I got to tell that story on Alex real quick. We moved into a neighborhood, and the first thing Alex did is walk over to the neighbor's house and trample down all of his newly bloomed tulips.
Oh, geez.
And the sweet old neighbor of ours, I remember his name was Glenn. He was just a sweetie. He comes over and he goes, "Can I talk to you?" Now, anyhow, I met him and all that. And he brings me over and he goes, look what your son did. It was Alex did that. Anyhow, okay. Next, we have the Old Bridge Diner sign. Swimsuit season is over. Eat more bacon. That's my motto.
Yeah, I think eat more bacon is just a pretty good thing to do.
Well, my motto is eat more bacon. You don't have to worry about swimsuit season.
Yeah. Bacon and beer. I like both.
Bacon and beer and pizza.
Yeah. Why not?
Oh, my God.
And a big bowl of spaghetti. Sign me up.
And a big bowl of spaghetti. Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Next. I like this one. That Jeff ordered too many items. Price drop.
Too many hams. Yeah, I can actually I've never ordered too many hams, but I've definitely made mistakes ordering and had to do a special because of it.
I just like how they blamed it on a guy named Jeff.
Why not?
Anyhow, I threw that one in there for you. The past, present, and future walk into a bar, and it was tense, says this sign.
Dad jokes. Dad grammar jokes.
Yes, yes, the past, present, and future walk into a bar, and it was tense.
Yeah.
Funny, creative. What do we got here? And then we've got the next one. Education is more important, but coffee is importanter.
I can relate to that.
Yes, I like that.
Coffee's pretty damn important.
Yeah, well, it's education is bad.
Importanter. I like it.
Yeah, I like it. All right. The next one, we have worms in the rear. I mean,
sure.
What can we say about that? Not much.
A bit of an entendre, I guess.
And I like the next one, Jeff. This could be your new logo up in your store.
Ooh,
what do you
like that?
Sammy's Pizza. Dinosaurs never had our pizza. Now they're extinct.
Yeah.
That should be your new logo. And then I love the next one.
Whoops. Hold on. Okay.
That's fine. I can read it. I can see it.
I got it. Here we go.
There we go. Sorry, we're open. Perfect. Guys being honest.
He's apologizing to the customers or the employees. I don't know.
I don't know. And the next one's kind of an oxymoron. His sign is out of alignment. I see stuff like this all the time. Like I see a body shop that I go by often. The outside of the building's got the worst paint job you could ever imagine. You would think if you're going to have a body shop, you want to show off your painting skills.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they don't. It's just weird to me. Okay. Bad marketing.
Next, we're going through fast.
Notice we are presently not open because we are closed. The truth has never been spoken more clearly.
Yeah.
I love that. I wish somebody would use that sign. I like this one. Same thing. If it's in stock, we have it.
Yeah. I tried to not look at these and I got them all set up too, so I'd have a good reaction. These are funny.
I'm using my cough button here. Sorry, people.
That's all good.
Should be good by next week. Store closing. Everything must go. Okay, that's all great. Up to 90% off. That's all great. But I love how they've got join our sales right next to it. Yeah.
Somebody made a mistake.
Well, do you remember there was a bunch of chain of stores called Gamble's when we were young?
Yeah, I heard of them. I don't remember ever seeing them, but I remember them.
It was going out of business. Always that going out of business side.
Mm-hmm.
Furniture. 80% off. Going out of business. Well, they never changed any of that. They were going out of business for damn near 40 years. Same thing, and. The next one's a little bit, if you're offended, don't look at the next one.
They're easily offended. Yeah.
My sister's pregnant. I'm going to be a dad.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I love the one next to it. Google is wrong. It's just got kind of a U-turn sign.
Yep.
Yeah. That's right. And then the next one is also perfect. Business sucks sale. So that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I'm getting important texts here, Jeff. Like they're really important. No, it's not important.
Good.
It's not important at all. All right, to next one. Today's offer. Buy any two drinks and pay for both of them.
I used to tell that's when everyone, my favorite line is you can buy one pizza at regular price, get the second one for the exact same price. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah, well, it'll fool some people. And then I've seen variations of this. There's actually a billboard near my home that's got something similar, but it's very creative. Bella Vista Auto Service. Is your wife hot? Recharge your AC here.
Yeah.
That's a nice play on words.
Yep.
And then we've got this next one, which is really confusing. Super confusing. Do you want to read that, Jeff?
Okay. Business hours open most days from about 9 to 10. Occasionally we'll open as early as 7. Some days as late as 12. Closed most days around 5 or 6. Some days as early as 4. Sometimes we'll stay here till 11 or 2. Occasionally we aren't here at all. Lately, it seems like I'm here all the time, except when I'm not, which is when I'm someplace else, but really should be here.
This is the exact thing that's been going on ever since COVID.
Yeah.
This, everywhere. This is the exact business hours sign. Even the big chains. You go there, and you know they're supposed to be open until 9 or whatever, and they're closed.
Yeah.
His business was slow or whatever the deal was. Nobody's, the stores are not like they used to be.
It's tough to get help. That's the part of the problem is
it's closed.
You can't get help, and you can't really lean on employees so much because they'll just quit. It's been tough.
All right. And then we have the win a free ride in a police car just for shoplifting from this store. Lucky winners will also get their name in the newspaper for their friends and family to see. Won't Mom be so proud of you? Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Love it.
And then I child-proof my house, but the kids still get in. Love that one. I like this next one too. On the side, it's a sidewalk sign. Nice drinks this way. Straight ahead is dunno, maybe bears. I wouldn't risk it.
It's probably safest to just go in the bar and get a drink. That makes sense. I
love it. Yeah.
For safety. It's for the children. It's for safety.
Pretty creative. Then we've got what a deal. Drive-through. You get a free straw with a drink purchase.
Wow, what a deal.
Yeah, you get a free straw with a drink purchase.
Amazing.
Daniel, do you always get free straws when you purchase a drink somewhere? Yes.
He's nodding yes.
He's nodding. I'm going to bring you on soon, dude. Just real soon, because you look lonely back there and you need to help us. So we're bringing you on early. He's just giving me the thumbs up.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Aircraft have right-of-way on roads. God, I don't want to be driving on that road.
That could get interesting.
Aircraft have the right-of-way on roads. Okay. I guess it's kind of a combo, whatever. So apparently the sign has been stolen, the Hornytown Road sign, which I'm sure is a real road, Oh,
yeah.
Back 100 years, Hornytown probably was where somebody found a, horny toad or God knows what. And now
maybe it's something we don't know.
Yeah, it says this sign has an RFID chip and GPS tracking in it. Because I'm sure that sign's been stolen a million times.
Yeah.
The sign next to it says no boating. No fishing, no swimming. The ducks have laser beams attached to their heads. Okay. Creative. And then this next one is probably real near that road that's got the airplanes landing on it.
It's an exciting place, wherever it is.
Tanks crossing. You got airplanes landing. I want to live there. And then the next one is a really true sign.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Because that is exactly what happens.
Have you seen a moose on the ground up close? It's staggering how big they are. Yes. I mean, they're unbelievable.
You don't want to hit one. On our last trip to Snell, we logged not last year, the year before, we logged like 12 moose.
Wow.
We spotted, right near the road. And this last one, we didn't see one. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Same time of year. Same exact time of year, same time of day, exactly. And
I've actually heard stories of cars driving under a moose between their legs. I don't know if it's true or not, but a moose can definitely be that big.
Yeah, okay.
I can believe it. I mean, I don't have proof, but I've heard those stories and
it could be done. I would do it. All right, next one. Drive slowly, see our city, or drive fast and see our jail. That picture looks fake, doesn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's photoshopped.
I think somebody photoshopped that one. It's still good.
Yeah.
It's the sign you wish you could see. I love this one. They call the skunk, do not pet the fart squirrels.
I never heard that before. I've
heard a lot of names for skunks, and I've never heard them called fart squirrels.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And see, what do these other ones say? This is a crosswalk. Okay. This is a sign. Okay. This is a pole, and this is Patrick. Okay. I do find that, the ones I hate is where it'll say, bump up ahead.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And then there's a sign that says bump.
Right.
I'm like, okay. And then you drive over it, and there's no bump.
That's happened to me many times.
There's nothing there. I'm like, what? That was a bump?
I like this next one here. This is funny.
Nosy. Oh, okay, go in. I don't know what that is. Shoplifters will be prostituted. This one.
Yeah.
I beat you on that one. Shoplifters will be prostituted. Okay. I think that was a mistake.
Probably.
And then I love these rollbacks. 54 cents was, and now 54 cents a pound.
What a deal. It's a bargain at twice the price.
I've seen that. I've seen that personally. It's like, what? You have one job to do. All right.
That's it. That's a fun one. I like those.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go ahead and just bring Daniel on early here. Let me introduce him real quick, a little bit anyhow, and then he can talk a little more about himself. People love talking about themselves, don't they?
Yeah, most people do.
No, they don't.
I don't.
No, I don't either. Do. I hate that when someone goes, introduce yourself. And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. What? All right. Our guest is Daniel Hamilton. He is the host of the Cryptid Podcast. And when I met him, I said, Daniel, there's no way that name was open when you started your podcast. He's like, yeah, it was.
That's amazing.
Like, how could that be?
It is.
That's probably why it was open, because it was so obvious.
That's a good one, though.
A good name that no one took it.
Yeah.
Right, Daniel? Yeah, he's shaking his head, yeah. And he also does the Mysteries Unknown podcast. He basically is kind of a co-host.
Mm-hmm.
He's a former correctional officer, so don't mess with the dude, at the state of Tennessee. He's also a former security police specialist for the U.S. Air Force. So you don't want to mess with Daniel.
Yeah, he's been around.
He's from Tacoma, Washington originally, which is probably how he got interested in cryptids, is my guess. He lives down the road, and he lives next to a bunch of monsters. Apparently, he didn't really know about, and we're gonna educate him on that today.
Yeah.
And he's super cool, super nice guy. And let's welcome Daniel Hamilton.
Hello, Daniel.
Hello, gentlemen. How's it going?
Fantastic.
There he is.
Hey.
And it sounds like, I don't know, we haven't talked further too much, but it sounds like Daniel's going to maybe have a podcast on the Untold Radio Network.
I heard that rumor. I heard that.
Yeah, that is the rumor.
I got to find out who's spreading.
I don't
spreading
know.
those
Some guy.
I'm also a hell of a nice guy. Just ask me, I'll tell you. I'm just kidding.
Anyhow, so I can't try to remember the story. We met, and somehow did we get together the same day we met online?
So here's how it goes. So I did a podcast with Tiffany. She's in the chat.
Tiffany Dorn. Okay. Yes.
I did her Paranormal Odyssey.
Yep.
And your name came up, and I said, I've been trying to get a hold of Doug, but I haven't really started to try to get a hold of him because he's so busy, it seems, that I'm afraid if I just send him a message on Messenger or something through Facebook, he'll either never see it or he'll just kind of skim through it. And she was like, oh, well, I can give you his email address. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, really? She's like, yeah, I just talked to Doug like 2 days ago. I'm like, wait a minute, Doug Hajicek, you talked to, Mr. Monster Quest. You talked to that Doug Hajicek. And she's like, yeah, he's publishing my book. I'm like, shut the front door. So she sends it to me, and I sat on it Friday, and I sat on it Saturday, and I sat it on all day Sunday. And I'm looking at your email address. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to come across like a thirsty fanboy or something,
Really? Okay.
And so I'm like, I do not F it. I'm just going to go ahead and send him an email. So I'm laying in bed and I'm typing up the email and I send it off, and then I get up and go to work the next, that Monday, and I'm sitting in my truck before I have to go into work, and I see that I have an email. I'm like, okay, who's this from? And sure enough, Doug sent me an email. Not at like 7 o'clock in the morning, not at like 6 o'clock in the morning. 3:03 in the morning, he replied to my email, told me to text him. I was
still working.
See, that's why you're always busy.
So, Doug doesn't sleep either. I don't think Doug sleeps at all.
I didn't. I swear to God. Okay, I'll swear on my life. I did not go to bed last night.
Oh,
I worked all through the night, and just had coffee this morning, and still going. And I'm sick. So
listen,
there you go.
You're burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, it probably might kill me someday.
Well, don't wish that. Well, anyway, so at like noon 30, I texted you because I was super swamped at work. And then you text me back like 10 minutes later, says, hey, I'm out with my buddies. I'll call you in like 45 minutes to an hour. I'm like, cool, not a problem. Didn't think anything of it. Get back to work. And boom, my phone rings exactly 45 minutes later. And I'm like, holy crap, this is Doug Hajicek. So I run into the break room. And you and I were trying to set up a time to just come on the show. And you're like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And I go, I don't, nothing. Well, hey, why don't you come on over to my place over here and I'll introduce you to some of my friends and we'll just hang out. And I'm like, all right, cool. And so, I'm driving over there and text message from Doug. Hey, how close are you? Call from Doug. Where are you at? Well, I'm over here. Okay, I'll be right up there. And he comes up, lets me in. And we go into his little place here, and we just start talking, and he's showing me around, and we were there for about an hour, an hour and a half. And then one of your buddies goes, hey, if we're gonna hit those dinner reservations, we need to go. And I go, oh, I said, okay, so well, I'll get a hold of you. We'll set something up. And you go like, what are you talking about? You're going to dinner with us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I go to dinner and I meet your lovely wife, and we just had great conversation, and I still remember what everybody ordered except for, I can't remember his name. He was sitting at the other end of the table.
Oh, Eric.
Yeah,
Eric. Was with us.
I can't remember.
And my brother Joe was with us too.
Yeah, Joe, because you and Joe ordered the same thing.
I can't remember what we had. Oh,
It's
pork
pork
chops.
chop.
Yeah. It was my birthday. It was my birthday dinner. That was the day that I met you. It was my birthday dinner. We had a bunch of us out.
Yeah.
Fun night.
And I don't remember what Eric ordered, but he had a big plate of something. And then your wife, she ordered a steak, a really nice sized steak and baked potato. I ordered a rotisserie chicken melt. Not my favorite thing.
This.
And I look over at Doug, right? Okay, guys, Doug is Doug. I'm thinking Doug's going to have like salmon or something like this. Doug's eating a plain old cheeseburger. and I'm looking, I'm like, oh my gosh. But before that, he ordered.
It's a good burger, I bet. That's a good restaurant.
It is. I never knew about that place.
Great restaurant.
But it was funny because, do you like shrimp, Dan? I'm like, well, yeah, I was raised in the Pacific Northwest. Fresh shrimp. I love it. He's like, oh, you got to try this shrimp. So you like this bread? I go, yeah, this bread's pretty good. The next thing you know, I'm eating a shrimp, and then Doug's like ripping a piece of bread off and he's putting it on my plate. Here, you got to try this. You got to try this shrimp. Hey, does that shrimp taste good? Why don't you try this one? And I just had an amazing time.
Yeah, we had a fun night.
Oh, that was just such a great time. It was just like a natural meeting, and it was just, there was like no stress, no pressure, anything like that. And you and I talked about a couple of things, and
well, how many people in chat want Daniel, take a vote here in chat, want Daniel to start a podcast about cryptids on the Untold Radio Network? Just put yay or nay. Vote. See?
It's a yes.
I
like Ike. Yes.
I got 2 yeses.
Well, they're coming in pretty quick. Yay, yeah. Oh, gee, see, you're getting a lot of them.
You got some fans here. It's good to see.
Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that. Get it, boy. So, but yeah, but here's another thing though, man. I mean, what was it? Like not even like 2 weeks later, I go, hey, when you're available again? Well, I take Mondays off. So I took Monday off and we went out to lunch. And
oh yeah, that's right. We hung out on Monday then.
Yeah, that was awesome. I met Blaine.
Yeah, we went to the office. Alex was in Florida, I believe.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
He was stomping tulips down in Florida.
Oh, okay.
No, you missed that story, but
I did.
Yeah, you missed it. Anyhow, but he was down in Florida with his family down there and soaking in some sun. And we're, by the way, Daniel and Jeff, we are supposed to officially get a hurricane in Minnesota over the weekend.
No.
Oh.
They're calling it a hurricane with hurricane force winds. Some other people are calling it a cyclone. On Saturday, it's supposed to be just insane, like sustained 75 mile an hour winds.
Okay, so those knuckleheads, they apparently don't know what a cyclone is. Cyclones are in the Pacific.
I know that.
Hurricanes are in the Atlantic.
It's coming up from the Gulf, and apparently it's meeting wind from the west, and it's going to start spinning. And it's going to be I've never experienced such a thing in my old age. It's just what we need anyhow. Let's put it that way. We need this.
Well, let's see.
We need a hurricane.
I've lived through hurricanes. I've lived through blizzards, earthquakes, volcanic eruption twice. Oh no, once. Mount St. Helens. I was 8 years old when Mount St. Helens erupted.
Wow.
Yeah, I think.
So, are you saying that I'm probably not going to get the bike out on Saturday? Is that
probably not?
No. Well, you could. You won't even need to put the motor in it. You can just sit on it, and it'll go.
Excited to get a bike out on Saturday, but
it's going to go. It'll go whether you're pushing the throttle or not.
Hold a bed sheet up and act like a sail.
Yeah.
There we go.
It'll be like in The Wizard of Oz, and the lady on the bike is in the tornado.
I did that kind of something like that when I was a kid. We used to do stupid things like, let's build a homemade parachute and jump off the 2-story roof next door.
Yep.
We'd do stuff like that. I don't know how I lived through my childhood, but we did.
Me neither. I was the exact same way.
I'm just glad we didn't have smartphones when I was a teenager, because man, I there's no evidence of a lot of the dumb things that I did. I'm really happy about that.
I did have a smartphone, Jeff. I had a tin can
Yeah.
phone, tin can telephone.
No cameras.
I'd probably be in prison.
Oh man, there's a lot of things I did. I'm really glad there's no pictures and video. How do you grow up? How do you grow up with that much scrutiny? I don't understand. But.
All right. Well, let's hurry up. Let's do just some really quick news. I'm just going to pick a couple of things out.
Okay.
And comments are welcome from you, Daniel and Jeffrey, of course, as always.
All right. Let me run the news bumper here quick.
Oh, yeah.
Untold radio news that can be a bit weird is right now.
All right. The first little tidbit that caught my eye is apparently they discovered a mummified saber-toothed tiger a while back, but now they've written a scientific paper on it. And apparently it's mummified and it's like in really good shape. It was found in the permafrost. Of course, you know where? In the Russian tundra area out there in Asia.
They always find the cool stuff.
Yeah, always. But this will allow them to clone saber-toothed tigers.
Boy, that'd be something else, huh?
Hell yeah. And then let them go.
Yes.
Let them go. I would be all for that, literally.
Are we sure that's a good idea?
I think so.
Absolutely.
Release all in all of the cities.
Natural selection.
Yes. Tigers.
Darwin at work.
All the suburbs and cities, and just let her just go. And then maybe you could splice in a gene where they have like 10 pups each, 10 cubs each. Like per week, they have 10 cubs.
Oh my gosh.
You'd have saber-toothed tigers like worse than coyotes. That'd be awesome.
I'd want to catch a young one and like make it my pet.
We'd all have to be armed. Like you'd walk out your door to take the garbage out and be like saber-toothed tigers attacking you.
Who says that we're not already though?
What?
Armed. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have anything within reach, but
I always have something within reach.
All right, I got to pay attention to chat. Maybe Jeff, you can too. He's getting a lot of comments here. Some of them are
Eric
pretty
is 100%. He is 100% on the nose with that comment.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's good. So we could just anyhow, I fantasize about stuff like that.
that'd be wild. I'd love to see a woolly mammoth more than
Like
anything.
everything just go back like really wild, where you have to sneak to your car at night because you'll get attacked by wild animals.
I like to see a woolly rhino or like a sloth bear.
Oh yeah,
or giant sloth.
Yeah, like woolly mammoths, rhino, just everything. Like walking down our streets, out there hunting people.
Sounds great.
Let's just fantasize. I mean, think of it. It'd be awesome. Okay. See, I'm on the cold medicine. Just forgive me. Don't hold anything.
A little loopy. It's okay. Make it fun.
I'm on the magical. It's kind of meth based, I guess. Cold medicine.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's not good. All right, then, and this is true. I've noticed this one, photo 34.
34. Oh, sorry, I got the wrong one ready. Give me 1 second here.
I'm jumping around.
It's all right.
Photo 34.
There we go.
And am I the only one? Have you guys also noticed a huge decline in seeing butterflies?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Remember the white ones and the yellow ones? It's the plain old run-of-the-mill little. I don't see them ever. Like none.
I haven't seen a monarch butterfly in I don't know how long.
Well, no, yeah, I actually, it's the only one I do see once in a great while is a monarch. But the white ones and the yellow ones, just the plain everyday little butterflies that would just, go all over the prairies and grasslands, yards. I don't see any of them ever. They seem that they're down, or 22% of the butterflies in the U.S. have disappeared. I beg to argue. I think it's more like 90% are gone.
Is there a reason?
I think it's got to be some of the, it could be anything from the fertilizers we're putting on our lawn to, it could be things like, the herbicides that they use at farms. Who knows? Could be the GMO crops. Could be anything. Who the heck knows? It could be some invader that's, the Asian ladybugs that are everywhere eating them. Who knows? I don't know.
One of my biggest worries is the rapid decline of bees.
That's right. They're just not as noticeable though, Daniel. Yeah. When bees population drops off, you don't notice it. Butterflies are, pretty visual.
A lot of people though, I don't think, I've seen bees a couple times in the chat, but people don't realize if bees disappear, you're going to see a huge hit in our crops.
Yeah,
huge hit.
True.
Yeah, they're really important.
Ooh, one of our secret guests just popped in.
The secret guest, one of them. We're waiting for one more. Yeah.
I don't even know who these.
You don't know who these secret guests. They're secret, Daniel. That's why you don't know.
Come on, man. There's no There's no secrets among friends.
Yeah, there are. All right. We have, photo 35, which is this X-37B space plane that takes off and it's gone forever and ever and ever. And nobody knows what they're doing up there. It's like a little mini space shuttle.
It was in orbit over a year.
Yeah, like up in space.
Yeah, it's unmanned. It's cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Well, they say it's unmanned. It doesn't mean it is.
Probably got an alien in it.
Yeah, it could have an alien in it.
There you
That's
go.
Really a good, excuse me. I know I got the hiccups. That's all I need. On cold medicine, sneezing, runny nose, and with the hiccups. Perfect.
So that's something that we know about. Imagine the things that we don't know about. There's things going on that we have no idea. Know what I mean? Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you right now, since I've been really active in this community, the cryptid community, I've learned so many things. Like, I thought I knew a lot of stuff. No, I don't know. No, I know absolutely nothing.
Yep. Yeah. Well, there's some really smart people in our audience, and that's the mark of intelligence, is realizing how much there is out there that you don't know.
Right.
The more that I know, the more that I learn, the more I realize, holy cow,
so what he's saying is the dumber you are, the smarter you are.
In some
the smarter
cases,
you feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
It's funny that, some people, that you're showing this up here, the XB31, and, you made I wonder what they're doing. So real quick, a few years ago when the X Games were being held in Minneapolis, there was a flyby, and they flew through like Minneapolis. They flew by pretty low. And it was I think an F-35, a P-51, an A-10, and like an F-22. And I was standing out the bus because I used to take public transportation before I had to drive into Bloomington every day now. And there were people just losing their mind. How dare they fly that low? The military needs to let us know, let the public know. And I kind of looked at that person, and I still hold true to what I said. The military doesn't have to tell us anything. No. Because if the military was telling everybody what was going on, people's minds would explode. Plus, it's OPSEC. You're not supposed to know exactly what's going on for the safety of us. So
it's true.
So mind our business.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, this plane just came back 436 days doing some secret, God knows what. Maybe it was dropping off our next item of discussion, photo 35A. Apparently there's giant African snails invading New York.
Yuck.
What?
Yeah, these are invading New York. Like, they're spreading really quick, and they're carrying meningitis.
Oh, no.
Yeah, which isn't good, which is when your brain swells up, right? And they are truly giant.
Well, yeah, I know one way to deter them if you're worried about
saber-toothed tigers.
Well, that would be awesome. Copper. If you take a thin strip of copper, say you have like garden or something like that, buy like a thin piece of copper.
There's a chemical reaction with their slime. It's
Mm-hmm.
electrolysis.
Yep.
And they go, it basically gives them a little electrical shock. Say, oh, yeah.
Yep.
I remember reading that. That's awesome.
And then good old salt.
Salt.
Yep.
Look at this thing.
That's disgusting.
I remember seeing all the banana slugs out west. And you remember all the banana slugs there in Washington?
Oh,
they're
yeah.
Kind of gross.
And they're huge. They get as big as your hand as well, just like that.
Right.
But they're like that big around, about that long.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See, let's just pop Joe on. He's going to be audio only tonight, unless he can turn his camera on if he wants. But he can just come on because we're going to be going places with Joe, and you'll understand soon.
All right. You there, Joe?
Hello.
Hey, yes.
There we go.
How's everybody doing?
Good. You're kind of staticky. I know you're down south.
Yeah.
So I know you're kind of in a wilderness, remote area right now.
Yep. I'm in rural Minnesota.
There you go. He's in farm country, and I mean real farm country.
Nice.
Like there's nothing. Say, Joe, I'm going to get you one of these slugs for your birthday for a pet.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I might even get you two.
That's funny because I used
to
play with them when I was a kid in California. I used to play with them, but they weren't quite that big.
Yeah. Okay. So your voice was really strong at one moment, so I know you can get it there. So anyhow, all right. Then I'm just gonna do this two more. So photo 36. And apparently, wild animal attacks. See. Wild animal attacks are on the rise in cities. See, that goes exactly with what I was saying about saber-toothed tigers.
Yep.
Same thing. Except we have coyotes attacking people, raccoons, blah, blah, blah. It's just the animals are moving into our cities, suburbs. And that includes, by the way, everybody, Bigfoots.
Yeah.
And as you're going to soon find out. Okay. It says during the early months of 2025, reports of unprovoked animal attacks on humans in cities have increased. Imagine that. These reports are specifically of note in Toronto, Canada, and Tallahassee, Florida. Apparently, they're studying those particular cities. Man, and animal attacks are happening on pets, and blah, blah, blah. And they're just talking about urgent action. I know the answer. Get those damn saber-tooths cloned and release them. They'll take care of all those crazy coyotes.
Yep.
Saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah, those herds need to be managed better.
I think saber-toothed tigers everywhere, Jeff, is the answer to everything.
Sure.
Crime.
And bees.
Pollution.
Let's just get rid of it. Just have saber-tooth tigers and bees and nothing else.
Yes.
What the hell are you doing, Joe? Jesus, he's banging around.
Sorry, guys.
What are you doing?
We can hear that.
You're on the radio.
Moving around.
Don't move.
Stop.
Stop moving. You're on the radio. Okay. Last one. Let's talk about this new film. It's coming out called The Age of Disclosure. And apparently it's available now on the SXS network on this Sunday. The Age of Disclosure. And apparently this film is I've seen the trailer. I can't play it. The trailer has had 18 million views, and it is really good. It looks really, really good. So what this guy did, hold on, let me get a swig of this water. My poor hamburger throat. It is a film that took the guy 2 years. He literally snuck around Washington, D.C., getting secret interviews with people, high up people. And it was just a very big hush-hush project. Well, it's out now, and it looks really amazing. So I definitely recommend that you make an effort to try to see it. I would imagine it'll be free at some point.
Yeah, look at that.
With ads. But anyhow, keep an eye out for it. Or go watch the trailer tonight. It's really good. You're going to definitely want to watch it. And this is produced by Dan Farah.
Oh, Dan.
He used to work for Spielberg, I guess.
Oh.
So there you go.
Interesting.
Dan, that's awesome. Good for him.
Yeah, Dan Farah.
Right on, Dan.
So what do you know? Okay, and then I have to talk about this. I don't know why it's kidding me. Have you ever heard of a pop boat?
Yeah.
Pop boat. Jeff, don't say you have.
Pop boat.
I have.
You have. No way. Did you have one?
No, but I've heard them.
I just found out about this. And I'm like, how come I didn't have one of these?
Like I saw, I watch a lot of YouTube videos.
It's
I'm
a
pretty
toy.
sure it's out on
It's a
YouTube.
toy.
You're going to have it soon. Knowing you, Doug, you'll have one soon.
I am. Okay. So we were talking about dangerous toys. And I did, when I was looking up dangerous toys, this did come up, but it never hit me. So they make pop boats, all these different sizes. And it's what it is. It's got two tubes that come out the back. Well, let's just play the video.
Okay.
And then I'll explain
one
how it
second
works.
here.
It's
I'll
really
pull
cool.
that up.
You can buy these. Don't let your kids play with them alone, though. It's super cool.
Here we go.
You got to put the audio on. It's a little engine that just runs on heat. But there's no moving parts. So we got one guy slumping around on his camera. We got the other guy taking his shirt off. What the hell? What's happened to our show? It's gone down the drain.
I don't know.
Okay. But this is a pop-up boat. What it does, it's like a pulse detonation engine. It sucks water in. It gets superheated by a candle, or you could use like some kind of alcohols. It heats up the water, and there's a little tin diaphragm inside. It heats it up, shoots out a pulse of steam, and then when the pulse of steam is shot out, it sucks water back in, so it never runs out of water.
Kind of like a pulse jet, but with water.
Like a pulse jet engine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can buy these for like $1 online.
Yeah,
and I'm
cheap
like, I
tin
didn't
toys.
know about this. So there you go. Pop
Yeah,
boat.
pretty cool.
And there's a guy on YouTube. You got to check it out. He built a full size that you can ride in.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, he built one full size, and he just heats it up, and it's got like this big tin diaphragm that goes up. Yeah, spoiler alert, it didn't work out that great, but it did go. It was kind of like a bang boat. It was kind of like bang and then boom and then bang and then boom. But these are cool.
Really cool.
Joe, have you ever heard of pop boats? Oh, he disappeared now. What the hell?
We lost him.
Now
I want to build a pulse jet. Thinking about that. Those are so cool.
Yeah, pulse jet. All right, enough of that. Now let's talk about
enough of that crap.
Well, it's kind of enough of that crap, but I still want it. I wanted to get at least the next thing in here.
Sure. Which one?
The new word.
Oh yeah, right around that.
Yeah, I think I invented this word.
I like this one.
Sort of.
The untold word of the week is napetizer.
That's a good one, Doug.
That
might be your best one.
That's an appetizer, is when you take a nap right before you go to bed.
That might be your best one yet.
I invented it. The
like that one.
appetizer.
Okay, I took one of those last night, like legit.
Yeah.
I was sitting
Isn't
on
it
the
just
couch.
hitting you now? How
that
many
happens all the time.
appetizers you've
That
done?
happens to me all the time, almost every night. Oh, it's perfect. We got to call Webster. That's got to go in the dictionary. Now we lost Doug.
Oh, he probably had. I don't know.
I'm here. I
Taking his appetizer.
My nose. Do you want me to blow my nose on camera?
Probably not.
No, I don't
thanks.
think so.
I'm going to vote
Figure out
no.
what happened to what is it? I gotta figure out what happened to Joe. Oh, it's still early yet.
Yeah.
Staying on here. I'm gonna text Joe.
How was your guys' day today?
I had a great day today.
Did you?
Yeah. Got done with work early. Sun was shining. Got a lot done.
I had a great day too.
Yeah. And Monday was an awesome day too. Yesterday was not a great day, but Monday was spectacular and today was really good.
Yeah.
How about you?
Me? It's every day,
Yeah.
man. Every day I have to get up, drive to Bloomington, and sit in an office. Sucks, but it pays the bills. I'd rather be doing this full time, but I just don't see myself making the money I'm making right now doing it. So
Yeah, yeah. Unless you're Joe Rogan, it can be hard.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's on my radar. I tell my wife, I go, I'm making tens of dollars, honey. I said, look out, Joe Rogan.
Tens of dollars.
Dozens of dollars.
And speaking of that, we do have Super Chat. You can buy us as little as a gumball or a cup of coffee on Super Chat if you want.
Yeah.
If you're a Super Chat supporter, we are Super Chat organized. Okay, and then let's do. Well, we're going to talk I am going to do a tech breakdown before this show is over.
Okay.
I'm trying to conserve my voice. Let's do 5-minute witness.
Okay.
Real quick, and Daniel, and then we're going to talk monsters in Minnesota.
There we go.
It's time for 5-Minute Witness. Short stories of strange encounters with the unknown.
And here we go.
Okay, the second time I came here,
Hey, what happened?
I came by, went between the cornfield and the woods, and as soon as I walked over from the far side of the cornfield to the woods, something started following me. Whatever it was big. It was breaking trees, limbs, deadfall. It sounded like a dozer going through the woods, except without the dozer sound. And then I came up to here and went on past, went down that way to the edge of the cornfield, figured out I was at the wrong spot, came back and went into right here. When I went into right here, it either jumped or fell into the creek here. And when it did, it ran over to that clump of trees right there, the far one where there's 4 or 5 branching off, and got behind it and weaved back and forth and made a sound, a growl. And I hope somebody else has heard this before. It went, then about 8 or 10 seconds of silence. Then it did, again. It did that 8 times. Then finally on the 8th time, I was standing right over there. I did a whoop, and of course it was louder, and it was dead silence after that. It never made another sound.
Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Daniel, I want your take on that. But before we do, there we go. I got to send some thank yous out.
Yes, well, thank
Joanne,
you, Daniel. I asked
Joanne,
Daniel.
Kenny.
So how's
Thank
that
you so
work?
much. Thank you, everybody. It's really appreciated.
That's nice. We appreciate it.
You guys,
Danny, what do you think of that clip?
wait to see what I do for $10. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. My mind works really, really different. I briefly heard some of the stuff that he said, and anything's possible. I mean, a little more detail probably would have been a little bit better.
Yeah.
But where my mind though, where my visual went to was his backpack. He's gonna have a very painful lower back and probably shoulders because his backpack is sagging too low. He should have cinched it up higher up on his back.
Okay.
And
All
then
right.
and then a sidearm. Yeah,
That
that's
went
hanging really
downhill
loose.
real quick.
I'm just saying, my mind works really, really in weird ways.
Not quite what I was asking, but okay.
By the way, Kenny says no pole dancing. Daniel.
I'm a big guy. It better be a really, really secure pole for me to get up on that thing.
Okay. So we have Joe back.
And Joe, are you there? Hello, Joe.
Hello.
There he
you
is.
go. Hey.
Hey. I had
Okay.
to reboot my phone.
That's fine. So we'll get your story out of the way. By the way, Daniel lives on this edge. We call it this corridor where there's a whole bunch of swamps and lakes. But there's been so many Bigfoot sightings because it kind of butts up to the wilderness. Just east of there is all hills, wilderness, the St. Croix River. But these Bigfoots seem to punch in to this area with all these lakes are pretty well desolate. They're entrophicated, so they're swampy. They're old lakes. Because generally in your area, those are all glacier lakes, Daniel, where you live.
Mm-hmm.
Like around Bad Bay Heights, White Bear.
Yep.
Like White Bear is a glacial lake. But right across the street, they're like ancient lakes, the opposite. They're filled in with debris. But there's a whole line of these lakes. And we happened to buy a little bit of property because we needed, garage room for Monster Quest and all this stuff, kind of a workshop. And I told Joe, I went and explored behind our basic building, and Joe's like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I've never done that. And I'm going to let you take it from there, Joe.
Yeah. So to start the story, we were actually working and I was going out to meet the contractor. So it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. And he was running about 20 minutes behind. So I thought, well, gosh, I'm right in that area. And I remember the conversation that Doug and I had. So I thought I'd just go for a little drive and kill 20 minutes. And as I'm going down this road, I take a right and just happened to approach this tiny hill. And right in front of me, this auburn colored creature walked across the road and took like 2 or 3 steps and off into the bush it went. And so there's another turn. So I turned around, I came back and tried to see if I could see it again, because I didn't see where it went into the bush. And I didn't see it beyond that. And so about a week had gone by, and then I saw Doug and told him, I said.
So he waits a week. What is wrong with this guy?
Honestly, I think I was in denial. It was just bizarre. But I was in his garage and I was visiting with him, and I happened to look up at a pair of shoes. And by the way, what walks upright and is auburn colored fur? And so he looked at me and we're like, well, what the hell? You must have seen it. You feel like you saw a Bigfoot, dude. And so it was just information. Him and we talked about what had happened, the details, and I took him out to where I saw it. And about a week after that, he got a hold of a tracker friend of his and said, and he didn't know what we were going out there for. And he just said, hey, if you were an animal and you were going to cross in this area, where would you cross? And so,
okay, hold it right there, Joe.
Went for a drive and he hit the exact spot that I had my sighting at.
Yes.
And he said, this is exactly the pinch point. There's a tree line here. The animals would have walked through here, crossed at this exact point, and went, over towards the lake. And so then it was about, 2 weeks later after that, Doug?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, a news report came out. I think it was Fox 9 that reported it. And there was a couple, or a gentleman at least, that had recorded an auburn-colored Bigfoot. And it was about 2 or 3 miles from where I had my sighting. But
yes.
He didn't know that I had my sighting, and I didn't know that he had his sighting. And so then Doug said, geez, we got to get a hold of this guy. And he ran ads trying to get so we can contact and communicate with the guy and discuss what he had seen, because he had no idea that I had my experience.
Right.
And that's pretty much the gist of the story. I was not looking for Bigfoot. I was just killing literally 20 minutes at a time, waiting for a contractor.
Okay, hold on, Joe. This was broad daylight.
Yep.
It walked right in front of his truck, stepped over about a 5-foot barbed wire fence, because it can't just go in the bush. There's a barbed wire fence there. So it had to step over that barbed wire fence. And this is probably, it's 6 miles from your house, Daniel.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And we started looking at that area, and there was a ton of no trespassing signs all around the lakes.
Yeah.
And we've learned a lot of history about that area. It was really a fascinating situation.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to Joe, if possible, off air, so I can get a little more information. And
we'll go ahead and ask him questions. You can ask him.
Well, I don't know if we want a lot of people trekking over there and stomping around, and
probably not. Well, we don't have to. Oh, I see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying? So
yeah, but it's in that line of eutrophicated lakes.
Yep.
Nobody's allowed in there. There's no dogs, no hunting. You can't camp in there. You can't even really walk in there. It's too small.
You're not supposed to. Yep.
No, and you can't.
Oh, that's the area that you and I renamed it the Double H area, the Hajicek Hamilton area. So, do you not remember when we were sitting in your garage and we were talking about the area, and like, oh yeah, we should call it like the H.
The H&H area. But it's just fascinating. And with a little luck, we're going to have another guest on that had an experience really close to you. And his experience is scary as heck.
Yeah, I definitely.
Because he was on foot, unlike Joe, who was in a car, a truck.
Yep.
But Joe, did you mention what you asked me? You go, did deer walk upright?
Yeah. Well, that was part of the initial conversation. I'm like, did deer walk upright, Doug? I mean, what animal walks on basically upright and is auburn colored in nature? And I was beside myself, and I just thought it was a deer, in all honesty, but it was not, obviously, because I mean, right after that, another witness came forward that had video evidence.
Joe, about how tall was it, and about how far in front of you did it cross?
Oh, I would say maybe 25 yards in front of me. I actually snuck up on it, so it's back and kind of back sideways to me as it was crossing, so it never even knew I was there.
He got the butt and the hip, just like I've always gotten.
Yeah.
He didn't get to see the face.
I never got to see a full frontal because it was walking. It was crossing the road kind of at an angle and away from me, and it was just going about his business. It didn't even know I was there.
But here's where it made sense. He was coasting down a hill, and then there was a sharp corner.
Yep.
So he busted that thing. And he was, his motor was just, on idle, basically.
Right.
Coasting down the hill and around the corner. And that should give everybody clues. Like if you're, looking for Bigfoots driving logging roads and roads, talk your buddy into letting him borrow you the electric car. Right? And Joe didn't have an electric car, but an electric car could be quite a research vehicle.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
It might be one of the only good things for them.
I guess I got to get a Cybertruck then. Dang it.
But that's a really good idea.
Or an e-bike.
It is a good
E-bikes
idea.
are good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how many people just go for a drive? And the reason I told him to go back there is because I thought, oh my God, this is like time stood still back here. And I had heard wood knocks. I had walked out of my workshop one night and I heard coyotes going off, and then I heard 2 or 3 wood knocks. And I will tell you, back by those pine trees that I showed you, Daniel, when you were over there, we had a whistling exchange, which was really interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
That's not, once again, it could have been a bird, I guess, but it was late at night, and it was kind of mimicking what we were doing.
So, I would definitely like to see another one, but one from this area to see how different they are from the one I saw when I was in Graham, Washington. So
yeah. So I mean, how did that change you, Joe?
Well, it just happened so quick, right? And I mean, I've always been a believer in the subject naturally, right? I mean, I followed it since I was a kid, and having seen what I saw, it just kind of makes you rethink. You made a comment earlier. It's like you think you know things, but you don't know kind of what you don't know. And it was one of those things where, geez, it's this animal that's been so elusive for all these years. I just witnessed an animal that people have been trying to study and get pictures and video of for years and decades, and I just happened to stumble across one without even looking.
Yeah. Okay. Reed has just popped in here, and I met Reed up in Grand Rapids. Nod your head, Reed. It was Grand Rapids we met. Yep. At the Bigfoot conference many years ago. And he called me over and we sat down. We had a cocktail together or some damn thing. And he told me an incredible story. And he's going to tell his story. We might as well tell it right now. Reed, you ready to tell your story? Nod your head. Yep. Right. He's ready to go. Let's
bring Reed on.
So Joe, you can hang out, and we want the interactions. Go ahead and bring Reed on.
Welcome, Reed.
Welcome. Hi.
Hi, Reed.
Took me a little bit to get going because I had to duct tape my phone to a Swiffer duster pole.
Perfect. I love it. This is free for all. We had one guy changing his clothes. We had Joe banging around. We've had everything. I'm loving it. But a Reed's story, I have to admit, is one of the coolest stories. And I've been in this game for almost 40 years now. And that's one of the coolest encounter stories I have ever heard. Reed, are you ready? We got to hear this story. We're ready.
So a little quick backstory on it. This was March 2012.
Okay.
So the weather then was like now. I was a welder in the iron range during the winter. So when my job was done, I came back down in March. It was a typical northern winter, very, very cold, lots of snow. But below Moose Lake, there was no snow. It was a really early spring. So I had cabin fever pretty bad by literally living in a cabin and welding all winter. But I get home to my apartment in White Bear Lake on Highway 61, and there's no snow. It's like 35, 36 degrees. It felt like spring. And if it wasn't a full moon, it was very close to a full moon. And a clear night, the moon just lit everything up. Like it wasn't quite like the daytime, but I thought I'm going to go for a bike ride. I've been cooped up in a cabin for 4 or 5 months, and I'm just going to go on a mountain bike ride. And all I brought with was a bottle of water on the bike, a Leatherman tool in case my bike broke down.
Yeah.
And a rinky-dink dollar store flashlight. And I'm just going to go on a nice mountain bike ride. It was Wednesday, 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
And I just went riding. And I went north because I lived in White Bear Lake at the time. And I went up to Lino Lakes. And I was looking on at a point on Google Earth. There's a pond, a mud lake. I don't know what it's called. It's not really a pond or a lake. And there was a peninsula that went north. And there's a little bay of water in there. And I stopped in there. It's right off the service road, 35E. and there's a little metal gate. There's no ever been a sign that says private property. I don't know who owns it. But I walked in there and I went around the gate, and next to the gate is a pine tree that I put my bike behind and some dead tall grass. And I kind of did a circle around to this peninsula. All I had was my little flashlight and a weatherman tool, because I wanted to get to the peninsula just to see what was there. And I didn't even need the flashlight. There was so much light from the moon. And I'm glad I didn't walk to the peninsula. It'd be kind of nice if people knew where this was to see on, say, Google Earth map, where this little peninsula landmass is. And I was instead on the east side of this pond lake, and there's a little bay in there. And I was just going to do a quick little, I guess you could call it a night hike, walk through there, go back to my bike, go ride around and go home. And there's no bugs, there's no birds. It was just quiet as there's no wind. And I'm just looking around. I look at the moon and I hear this big, not even a splash, that kerplunk splash, where it sounds like a rock hitting the water. And so immediately my heart starts to pound. But I figured, hey, it's probably a fish hitting something in the water, even though there's no bugs or birds. And I'm about to leave, not even like a minute after that first kerplunk, there's a second one. But the second one is louder, like it was a bigger one. I knew what it was. I knew it was a rock, but my heart is just pounding at this point, and my body is just like, I'm not as scared of the dark guy. I don't get scared too easily. But it has happened before in the woods, where if I just stick around for a little longer, I'm going to find out what it was, and it's going to be some benign thing that I'll feel stupid for being scared. So I figured if it happened twice, it should happen a third time. So where this bay is, on the east side of this pond or lake, you want to call it, there was a lump of earth. It was higher up than everything else. So I stood up on it, crouched down, and just was looking over this bay, and I could still see a little bit of ripples in the water. There was no wind, there was no waves, but a little bit of ripples, so I knew something was happening in the water. And I figured, okay, if it happened twice, it should happen a third time. And my heart's still pounding, and I'm having inner dialogue where I'm literally in my head saying, you know what, man, you're going to feel real stupid when you see a fish jump up out of the water. So my body is facing the west. The moon is at a southwest, not too high up. And what I'm looking at is the peninsula. And the moon is causing a shadow from the trees on this peninsula to cast a shadow right at the shore's edge. So I turned my head to the right, which would be north, and I was just looking at the horizon, and I figured I'm just going to slowly turn my head to the left and just wait for something to happen. I thought it would be a fish. And as I turned my head straight with my body looking straight forward, a rock comes off the ground. And I don't mean a rock. I mean the size of an old TV set, like a 30-inch tube TV.
This is like a
stretched
boulder.
out a little bit. It was more rectangle than square. But I give the point of reference as an old TV. But it was a pretty decent size. You could say a large stone, small boulder. And I'm in a state of shock because whatever did this waited for me to look in that direction. Now the moon was shining directly on me. I was not in a shadow of any kind. And I would say the shoreline to where I was is probably 25. I don't think it would be even 30 feet. The rock came up. I didn't see hands. I didn't see arms, but the rock came up right after the shadow line on the shoreline. I was in a state of shock because I didn't know what I was looking at. I knew it was a rock, but I was thinking so fast of what could it be? It's a rock. Now I know what's hitting the water. And the rock is very, very big. But it had a absolute perfect arc to it. And it wasn't flipping end over end. It went straight up in the air. But as it got up higher, it started to slow down where it hits the peak. If you were to throw, like if you did an underhand with a softball, and it arched perfectly where it hit that millisecond hang time. But once it got to that quick millisecond hang time, I could see every imperfection on that stone because the moonlight was shining on it. And I would say at this point, it was probably 12, 15 feet up in the air. Wow. So now my heart, it felt like it just stopped beating. Because now I know it's going to come back down. And my heart just sinks because now it comes down. It's like almost slow motion for a second. That now it's coming down. And not only was it not flipping through the air, the way it was coming back down to the water, its flattest section was going to smack the water. So when it smacked the water, it wasn't just a splash. It was an explosion. And then the air coming in behind it. It was, I tell people that if you've ever seen a World War II depth charge when they're hunting submarines, that's what it looked like. Like I was even splashed by water. I didn't get soaked by water, but there was enough to hit me.
So it was like a big geyser popped up when the rock hit.
It was the biggest splash I have ever seen right in front of me. I estimate this stone to be probably 140 to 200 pounds.
Oh, wow.
It was thrown like somebody tossing a softball. I didn't hear a grunt. I didn't see arms. I didn't hear twigs breaking. It just came up off the ground in the shadow with ease and a perfect arc. And then where it hit the water was almost exactly halfway between where I was and where the shoreline was, where the rock came from. So in a state of pure shock, now when I was scared before, now it's full-blown panic and my heart is pounding out of my chest. And I stood up really fast because I was crouched down. And almost like a lightning bolt, if I wasn't already scared, mind, body, soul was just washed over in pure terror. And I didn't even know what did this or caused it yet. And I'm not a person that's scared of the dark. I don't scare easy, but it was so overwhelming terror that I had to stop myself from running away. I wasn't even in control of my own body at that point. I did not piss or shit my pants. I gotta say, like I had pucker factor so bad, even if I wanted to, nothing would have came out. But my own legs just wanted to turn and run. And instinctively, there's 35E. I didn't even think this, but my body wanted to run out into the freeway, and it's probably 11 o'clock, 11:30 at this point. But to run that way directly east, I would have ran through brush and thorn bushes, and I just consciously knew that wasn't going to work out. So I went exactly the way I came in, the same way I did it. Meanwhile, having to fight the most extreme amount of panic and terror I've ever felt, and it just didn't seem like that should be happening. I don't know, it was more fear than I think my own body could ever create or my own mind could even come up with. And I just walked out the same way I did, but as soon as I started moving, I had to literally fight myself from running away. And I remember two things came into my head out of nowhere. I remember as a kid watching Jane Goodall, and she said to never run away. You might get chased. So after that, I remember my dad, I used to hunt grouse with him. And he would, as a little kid, he'd always tell me, never take more than 3 to 5 steps. You always listen, and every third to fifth step, you stop and you listen. But meanwhile, I'm having to fight every urge to just run. I'm listening carefully because I'm in such dread and terror that I'm listening for twigs breaking, something crashing through the woods. I didn't know if I was going to get chased. I didn't want to see what did it. And I had to crawl under some bushes really quick. Meanwhile, I'm stopping a little bit every way to listen. And I'm not hearing anything. And I felt really stupid at the time and embarrassed because I had my Leatherman tool, you know, the pliers. I opened it up and I had a knife blade on each end and I held it in my right hand. It was all I had. But I felt stupid because whatever could throw a stone like that with ease, I don't think is really going to care if I have a Leatherman tool in my hand with a knife sticking it. But it was I had. I worked my way back into, there's a clearing there where I parked my bike. It's not straight woods all the way through. There's a little clearing with a bunch of all dead grass. And now I get out of the trees and I'm into the moonlight again. But still, my heart is pounding out of my chest. I still feel like running, instinctively just running into traffic. Before the freeway, there's a service road, a fence, a ditch, then a 2-lane freeway on one side, 2 on the other side. And I was telling myself in my head, just get to the bike, just get to the mountain bike. And then I was telling myself, and when you get on the mountain bike, don't run with it, don't pedal fast, just try to leave casually, look like, you know, you're not scared. And I think this was the worst part if I wasn't already scared before. Mind you, I didn't hear anything at all. I go to my bike and my bike is gone. It's not even there anymore. But as I look down in the tall brown grass, I can see an outline of where the bike was.
Okay, stop right there, Reed. That's the part that gets me. Like, really goes right to my core. Daniel, where are you at mentally at this point? You go back, you have a huge boulder thrown at you. You're not too far from, you know, the city, but it's a creepy area. I know that area. I know exactly where he was.
After Reed tells a story, I'm going to ask him a couple of questions. But if I was in Reed's, yeah, I mean that.
You go back and your bike is gone.
But I mean, I also go back to my training in this. You know, I always carry, me being prior military trained to
I understand
that type of stuff. I'd have something, either my hand on it or it out and kind of ready to go.
Well, he did his Leatherman tool.
Leatherman versus Sig, but I don't know what I would do if I go back and my only mode of transportation is gone. Like I don't know what do you do?
I don't know. And by the way, Reed, Joe is here too. Joe had a sighting in that area himself. And I have now joined the club. Me and Yvette had an amazing sighting of a Bigfoot in that area also. So you're not alone, Reed.
Y'all are going to
we'll
get me
let
in
you
trouble.
continue on with your story, but that's the moment when your story really gets super, super scary and freaky. Because what is going through your head at that point? Like, I mean, did you think like people stole it? Were you thinking creatures at this point?
So when the bike was gone, I wasn't even in there very long. And where I hit it, you couldn't see it from the service road. And if somebody was to go in there and steal it, they'd have to be poking around. And I thought maybe someone just so happened to walk down the road and walked in there and saw it and stole it. It was just a cheapo Walmart. It was beat up. It was not worth a lot of money. So at this point, the panic situation is so bad that I probably lived at that time 9 miles away from there. And I knew if I was to walk home, I would just start running and I wouldn't stop. Or I was seriously contemplating just running into the freeway because that's where people are. And I figured somebody would see me. And
35W.
Or I figured if something was to chase me, it probably wouldn't chase me in the freeway, or if it did, someone would see it. So before I took off running, I didn't want to look behind me at any point in time, but I need my bike. And I'm just going to look around really quick. And I only saw it because of the moon. I looked around and northwest of where I was standing, I see a shiny glint. And I look over and I see another shiny glint. It was the pedal of the bike and one of the spokes. And all I could think was something pulled that into the woods and now I have to go back in there to get it. And I know I didn't put the bike there because I'm looking at the spot in the grass where the bike was. And I knew where I parked it. So now I know somebody didn't steal it. And now it's pulled back into the woods. So I got to walk back in there to get it. So now I'm thinking, I think I should just leave. And if I start running towards the freeway or running down the service road home, I think that's what I might have to do. My water bottle was on the bike. My heart is pounding. And I can't tell you, mentally, my mind was like a supercomputer firing off on all cylinders, thinking of every odds and probability, like overclocking like a computer. It was just overthinking on everything, and I didn't know what to do. And I knew I had to get the bike. So I was really, really scared, thinking that if I go in there to grab my bike, something's going to grab me and pull me in. And at this time, nobody knew where I was. It was a spur of the moment, I'm going for a bike ride. In my apartment, I didn't have a roommate. This was 2012. I didn't have a smartphone like I do now. I would have just vanished. Nobody would know. I'd just be gone and nobody would have known it. So I had to do it. I didn't want to. And I slowly walked in there. I was looking around. My head was on a swivel. I'm listening.
And I might interrupt you and may add that people have disappeared from that area.
Oh, man, that's horrible. I don't know if that was, I think I know now why all this happened, but I walked to my bike and I kept telling myself, don't run with the bike, don't run, because I had to walk through the clearing again to get to the gate to get to the service road. And I just kept telling myself, don't run, just walk with it. And I walked with my bike. I got on the service road. I'm listening the whole time. I don't hear anything. And I get on my bike and I tell myself, ride slow. As soon as I hopped on that seat, I was gone. I must have been doing like 30 miles per hour instantly the entire way home. I didn't look behind me. I got to my apartment and now I'm trembling, shaking, and I can't stop. And I get in my apartment and I'm home now, but the fear would not go away. It was so bad that I was standing in my living room shaking, staring at the windows, thinking someone's going to come in the window. And the only thing that made me feel a little bit better is I went into my bedroom and I grabbed my 30-30 lever axe and I loaded it up and I just held onto it, like hugging it. That was the only thing that made me feel a little bit better.
Thanks.
But as far as carrying a firearm, I go up to the iron range a lot and I dirt bike and I go in the woods. I always got a rifle or a pistol with me. But I just thought it was a quick mountain bike ride. I'm going to go check out this spot. It's
Yeah, that's
almost,
how it goes.
and I'm just going to go home. I didn't think I need a firearm, you know?
Yeah.
And then where this happened at, it's not even really a rural area.
Mm-mm.
It is considered to be Lino Lakes, but it's off County Road J. It's
Yeah.
not too far away. I
Yeah, it's in
didn't
the
figure I would
freeway.
ever need-
It's in that corridor area.
Let
Are
me
you
ask-
guys are you
sorry.
familiar with the man that did disappear in that area and the recording that was made? They really don't know what happened to him. They found him eventually, like months later, floating in one of those
Oh, I
lakes.
heard that story. He left a voicemail to his
Yeah.
girlfriend.
Yes, while he
Well,
was being attacked. He left some
there was
kind of weird.
growling in the background.
Yeah, it's really scary. And he was walking through that. Basically, that's whole area is connected by a corridor of trails and forests, and he made a mistake of kind of cutting through there. Something happened to him because the guy was an educated IRS agent. Yeah, he had a few drinks, but on the same token, I really suspect on what happened to him. You know, it was just such a
For me,
bizarre.
I was 100% sober. I wasn't drinking, doing any drugs. It was just, I'm going for a mountain bike ride. It was such a nice night out. And once I got home, I didn't know what to do or think. I thought of calling Lino Lake Sheriff and asking if there's been bear sightings. But I know that bears don't throw rocks, especially
No.
big, heavy ones.
No way.
So I didn't know. For the longest time, I didn't know what to think. And before that happened, I wasn't a person that really believed in Bigfoot. I wasn't a believer or a disbeliever. And I truly didn't see what did it. I didn't see an arm. I'm actually very, very thankful that I didn't see what did it. I didn't get chased, get yelled at, growled at. I mean, that would have been, I was already at the brink of almost insanity at this point. And looking back, the fear level was so off the charts that I don't know if it was even just me in my mind. It was, normally you would think you'd be in a state of shock because what just happened, but the amount of fear that went through me was instantaneous. Like it came from somewhere else. I don't even know how else to explain that.
Yeah.
But I do think why it happened is I got the 1, 2, 3 warning. The first rock, the second rock was bigger, but when I walked up and stared to see what would happen, it was if something was like, I'm going to show you what I can really do. And it waited for me to look in that direction. I was looking right at it. The fact that it was not even flipping end over end was amazing to me. There was no telepathy, but it was like I was being spoken to, like, you need to leave now.
Yeah.
This is your last warning. And oh, by the way, look what I can do.
Well,
And
this is
I
a great example of their extraordinary strength and how they'll use it to do a non-confrontational intimidation. I mean, you all walked away, right? You didn't get hurt. You're here to tell the story.
No, and I didn't. Now
But
I feel respectful that it didn't try to scare me, even though it was enough to really, really scare me, though.
Well, it did scare you. But my point is, it used an extreme amount of force in a peaceful way. You know, it could have used that same force to Tyrion too.
Yeah.
Literally.
So that rock, the way it was thrown with ease, could have just been thrown at me, and I wouldn't have even have time to move. And
Okay,
I would have been dead on the spot. That
do
thing was
you feel
really
they're the
large.
ones? Do you feel another family member moved your bike?
So I thought this over so many different ways that there had to have been another being there, because if you were to look at the map where I came from or where the rock came from, it's whatever threw that large stone would have had to have snuck around me, meanwhile making no noise, knows where my bike is, moves the bike without me seeing or hearing anything. So my guess is something else in that area that watched me come in, knew where the bike was, and when I went out to where that peninsula was, it decided to move my bike. Why? I don't know. I think it was another speaking without words, like don't ever come back here. Or it was a test to see what I would do. I don't know.
Can I ask you a couple questions, Reed?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
So how did you get to this location? Like what road did you take?
So I don't know if you know Highway 61 in
I
White
know
Bear
Highway
Lake.
6. I live in Vadnais Heights. So
Oh, okay.
I know this area.
He's from your area.
Oh, okay. So you know where Otter Lake Road is?
Yes, I do.
So I took 61 over to Otter Lake Road, and I took Otter Lake Road north all the way up to where Bald Eagle is. I think it's called Highway H.
Yep.
And then it goes around, I think it's either Otter Lake or Bald Eagle Lake. And then it hits County Road J. I took County Road J for probably it's probably only like a block or two. And then you take a right on the service road.
Were you when was 35 was it 35E? Were you
35E.
So
yeah, it's 35E. Yeah.
So was 35E to the east of you?
Yes.
And so is this lake between Centerville and 35E?
Yes. So
and is it
this
near
pond lake
is it near
south of it is County Road J. Centerville would be west of it, and 35E would be east of it.
Yeah, I think I know exactly. I think I know exactly where you're at. Is it near the movie theater?
It's right on the other side of County Road
North.
J, where
it's north of the
Magic
movie theater.
Yep.
North of there.
And were you on the west side or the east side of the lake?
That pond? Yeah, I was on the east side of it.
Yep.
You can see a little peninsula there and a little bit of water in there. If you look at Google Earth.
I'm looking at it right now. I know exactly where that is. I guess I'm going to be taking a field trip there pretty soon.
So, interesting thing is, it took me 2 days to calm down after this. And I swore to myself, I'm going back there. During the daytime, I'm going to go back there. Because at this point, I'm not even thinking Bigfoot. I wanted to go to the peninsula. I want to see boot prints.
Well, what were you thinking? Reed, what were you thinking?
I shouldn't have, but it was 2:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday. So it took me 4 days to get back there. And this time I drove my truck. I had a big Marine Corps K-bar knife. I didn't want to bring a gun because I'm in city limits. And it was 2:30 in the afternoon. It was a nice day. So I thought for sure I'm going to see boot prints, cigarette butts, some garbage, human garbage, to say some really strong guy was over here. And it was so hard to walk in those woods. My legs were shaking. And I took the same route right back to that spot. And I found a stone on the ground that was a little smaller than that one. And I thought, I'm going to try to duplicate this. I'm a decently strong guy. I'm like 195 pounds, 6'3". I'm going to try to lift up this rock. It probably weighed 90, 100 pounds. It was so hard and awkward to even pick up off the ground. I had to squat over it, pick it up just a little bit, and I thought, I'm going to try to throw it. So I tried swinging it between my legs, and I tried to throw it. It just immediately hit the ground. So I was like, okay, well, I mean, if a guy like me can't do this. So I walked through the peninsula. I wanted to go exactly to where this rock came from. Now, this is an interesting thing that I didn't know until I walked out there, that this peninsula is actually an old beaver lodge that has trees growing out of it. So when I stepped on it, I noticed there was a hollow sound to it, and it was making a thud noise. And I thought that was very odd. And then I looked and I noticed there were a couple of trees that beavers had gnawed on, like that no-tail sign with like a sharpened pencil, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this must be an old beaver lodge that looks like a landmass. So then I walked over, and where that rock was thrown from, there wasn't any human garbage. There wasn't any boot prints. I didn't see anything but a large divot in the ground of where something once was.
Would you be willing to go? Would you be willing to go back to that area?
Oh, definitely.
I would love to beat up with you, like legit.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, I work right by there now.
Really?
I drive by there Monday through Friday, twice a day. But yeah, I'd be willing to go back there.
Say, Reed, what were the options of what you thought it could be? You must have had a whole range of options that seemed legit. What were they?
So if I didn't see it, I couldn't say, but I was looking directly at it. So there was no what ifs. I knew what I saw. It was a big boulder. It got thrown up in the air. Perfect arch hits the water. And at first, like I was saying, I knew better that this isn't the case, but I'll just look on Google. The bears throw rocks. Well, no, they don't do that. So the only other option is a really, really strong human being. I still don't see a strongman competition guy like Arnold Schwarzenegger could even do that. I don't see a guy underhand tossing 150 to 200 pound stone that easy. So eventually,
okay, what I'm getting at, what were the paranormal or the more mysterious options in your brain? One, was it a Bigfoot? Did that cross your mind?
That did eventually. It was the process of a
but it didn't that night, correct?
No, definitely not that night.
It never even occurred to you.
Well, I didn't want to think that. I was so panic stricken, and mentally I was a wreck. I was literally pacing back and forth, holding my rifle, trying to piece together not only what happened, but why am I still feeling so terrified? It wouldn't go away. So I had to sleep on my couch, just holding my rifle, and I didn't even sleep. I just laid there, kind of shaking. And the next day, I really had to think about it because I wasn't a Bigfoot believer. And the location, I thought if a Bigfoot exists, it's in Canada, it's in the Pacific Northwest, it's not around the cities. So eventually, the process of elimination is what else would it be? What else could do that? And then on top of that, like, why was I instilled with so much fear that I've never felt anything close to my entire life? That the conclusion is I don't know what else it would be other than a Bigfoot.
I definitely need to get in contact with you after the show, if possible, and set up a time where I could meet you at a designated location, so we can both kind of just go over there together. And I definitely want to investigate this area.
We should, and I really wanted to do it, and I was kind of waiting. This is kind of the last summer we can do it, is to bring a diver or at least an underwater camera on a big stick.
That stone is still there in that water, and that water's not very deep. You don't even need a diver.
Well, no, but we need to see. I want to find that rock that was thrown. How far away from the shore did it land, Reed?
It landed almost directly halfway between where I was standing and where the rock was laying on the ground on the shoreline of the peninsula.
So, like, if you had a kayak and an underwater camera on a stick, do you think we could find that rock?
Oh, easily. It's not even in the main body of water of the pond. It depends on when the picture was taken for Google Earth, but there's a little bay of water just to the left, the east of that little finger peninsula, and that's where it is.
Now, okay, so let me ask you. So you're talking about the little peninsula. Is it kind of like there's like a little inlet and there's a peninsula coming up from the north and one coming up from the south, and it's inside. There's like a little tiny lagoon or something that's right in that area.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
a
on.
little tiny lagoon.
Yep, it's on. I know exactly where that is. If it's the lake, I think it is. Yeah, I absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
'Cause
I work right up that way, and it's easy to park right at the movie theater. You could just walk right down the service road and walk in there.
Yep.
I haven't seen any no trespassing signs. I don't even know who owns the land. Is it state land? I have no idea.
Well, I know it along Centerville. There's a couple of houses in that area that people live in. So I don't know. And if you keep driving down Centerville, you'll see the west side of that lake, and there's like a floating, like a little island or something that has the trees on there. That's kind of out in the lake a little bit. And then if you keep going up, you're going to come to Birch.
Yep.
So, yep. Okay. I know exactly where it is.
Yeah. If you were to drive up Centerville, and you were looking really hard to your right to the east, you'll see that little peninsula out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell that's what it is, but you can see it.
Yeah, wouldn't it be a cool segment for Legend Meets Science to get an interview with Reed, and then go look for that rock?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be fantastic.
That would be a cliffhanger.
Another interesting thing I found out, other than the beaver dam, why it was standing there, or not the beaver dam, the beaver lodge. Maybe it was a Bigfoot hoping to snag a beaver and beat it. That's the only conclusion I came to. And another thing I figured out was, in that area, there's large stones. Now, where did they come from? Well, farmers just north of there apparently used to pick rocks out of their fields a long time ago. They would go there and dump those stones there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably where that rock came from. Was a long time ago, a farmer dumped a load of rocks back there.
Makes sense.
Well, let's shift gears here for a second. David asked some really intelligent questions of Joe, and we kind of rushed Joe's story. Joe, you still with us?
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay.
It's fascinating what Reed is saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a question on screen. Says Joe, so you have a Class A sighting of a Sasquatch, walks out in front of your truck, whatever. Can you describe the estimate of its size, height, speed, and all that kind of stuff?
I can tell you that if I had to estimate the height, it was probably 7-8 feet tall, somewhere in that range. Again, as I wasn't looking for it, it happened to be crossing.
No, I know, it caught you off guard.
So yeah, and then it literally took 2 or 3 steps, and it was actually in the tree line.
Yes.
And so that's as much of a description as I can give you.
Yeah, but it was tall. What would you say it was the tallest animal you've ever seen in your life?
I would have to say yes, and that's why I knew it was upright. I mean, I knew it was a bipedal animal.
Yeah,
the way it was walking. So.
Yep. So you guys have a lot in common, and once again, I've had a sighting there too. Actually, closer to Reed's. Actually, on the other side of the lake, Joe, where you had yours.
Yep. Okay.
And it was a completely different creature. It was black, but it had the most beautiful speckles in its hair, like gray speckles. Almost looked like feathers or like porcupine quills. The way the hair was so speckled, it was beautiful, and we both got to watch this thing. You don't get to see the face. Saw the butt, the little bit of the side of it, and you're just so caught off guard that your brain can't even process.
It didn't. That's just it. My brain did not process what I saw right away.
And that's what people have to understand. When you know, it isn't like you're ready and you're looking for this thing. All of a sudden, bam, it's there and you're trying to process. And by the time you're processed a little bit, it's gone. You know, you're all confused. And go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was thinking about that through Reed. That's an incredible encounter, and thank you for telling us that story. Well, something for any skeptic that's listened to this story. Grabbing a camera was the last thing on Reed's mind. I can guarantee that he's not thinking about grabbing a camera, because people always talk about, oh, why don't you get a picture? Why don't you get video? You have a cell phone. Well, a story like that, you're not thinking about grabbing a camera. He's worried for his life.
Yeah, well,
so I think that's something to keep that in mind. That
and plus it was like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, well, but in general,
it's the last thing you're thinking about.
The last thing you're thinking about is I want to get a picture of
Even
this.
for me, I'm a photojournalist. Even then, it's the last thing I've thought about.
At the time, it was. I remember it was the year 2012, and I had a flip phone.
Oh yeah.
So I had no camera at the time, anyways.
Right, but I mean, yeah, exactly.
Well, in my sighting, I was in a truck. Safety wasn't even a consideration for me. It was just matter of fact. So I can't begin to imagine what you went through, Reed.
That's incredible.
By yourself. Yeah, it's a fascinating story.
Yeah, absolutely.
It actually took me 2 years to be able to go back out in the woods again after that.
You said 2 years?
Because I'm a woods guy. I love hiking, dirt biking, and I physically could not go into the woods for 2 years after that.
When you say you didn't go, so right over that area is Tamarack.
Yep.
Okay, so you wouldn't even walk through Tamarack.
Possibly Tamarack. When I mean the woods, I mean like real woods.
No, but I understand what you're saying, though, man. I think the scariest part of that whole thing is when you go back and your bike is gone. To me,
yes,
personally, that's the scariest part of this whole story.
I agree.
Yeah, that was, I think, the most terrifying moment. I felt like I was being tested. And of course, I thought maybe someone stole it until I found it pulled back into the woods. So,
about how far from where it was originally placed, where you placed it, to where you found it? How far distance would you say?
It was northwest of where I laid it down. 60 feet. 60 feet, I would say, because it was pulled into the tree line.
Did you see drag marks, or did you think it was picked up and placed in there?
It was definitely picked up.
Good night, man. That's
because there was I didn't see. You know when you like to ride a bike through tall grass like that, it leaves a line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the grass was dead. It wasn't pushed. It was as if someone picked it up and carefully set it down.
Goodness.
And then when I rode my bike, when I was pushing my bike to the gate, again, I looked over to make damn sure I wasn't going crazy. I looked down and there's the outline of where my bike was when I first set it down. But yeah, that was the most terrifying part, was finding my bike pulled back into the woods. Well, I thought I was going to get grabbed for sure.
So you had up here is where you had the rock thrown at you. Down here is where you had your bike. So you're right. Something had to have come around behind you and grabbed that bike. That's
either the whatever it was on the peninsula outflanked me the entire way around and snuck around me to do it faster than I could get there, or I think the only option is there was a second one.
Yeah,
that's way more.
These things are seldom alone.
Mm-hmm.
They are on occasion,
But I have to say though, I after years of thinking this over, that I kind of feel that it could have been far worse, and that was just being told to leave. It could have scared me half to death, even worse than before. I could have been hit with a rock, log, killed. chased off, but it was
sure.
just like it was just you need to leave. It's pretty much all it was. Even though it was probably the scariest thing I've ever encountered in my entire life to this date.
So how do you think has it changed you permanently in any way? Does this encounter?
Yeah. Two things. Like I told you before, it took me 2 years to be able to go back into the woods. And I mean like real woods, like up north.
Sure, I understand.
That when I used to go in the woods, I thought I was over it. My legs would just stop working.
Yeah.
And my legs were like pulling a dog that doesn't want to move.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't work again until I turned around, then I was fine. But one thing is it almost blew a fuse in my head for fear, where comparatively speaking, I have never had any fear since then, because nothing compares to that.
Yeah.
So as long as like nothing is as scary as that or worse, I've been fine ever since as far as fear goes.
It's interesting.
But that's the only thing I can call it, is comparatively speaking. If you've ever been that scared before, it's going to take something like that to happen again to get you to feel that way.
Reed, I know that fear. The last encounter I had was in 92, and it was in Shelby County, Tennessee. It involved me and my younger brother. Unfortunately, my younger brother passed away in 2016. But I'd come home from Germany on emergency leave. My grandfather passed away, and so happened my brother was graduating high school, and I surprised him for his graduation. And what we did after graduating is we decided to go on a camping trip. We were going to spend a couple of days in the woods, and the area we were going to camp was right up near the Mississippi River. And as we were walking, as we parked his car, and we walked about 200 yards to where this trailhead was, and we started walking down the trailhead. We walked down maybe about 30, 45 minutes, and then he says, if we cut through here, we can get to the camping spot a lot faster. I'm like, okay, let's go. So we start going, and we're walking probably a good 30 minutes off the beaten path, and he had to relieve himself. And as he started relieving himself, this loud whistle from my left came out of nowhere. And I look at my brother to be like, hey, man, did you hear that? And he just so happened to turn his head the same time I was, and he thought I was checking him out. And, I'm like, come on, man. He's like, I saw you looking. You're looking at my stuff. I'm like, man, I'm not looking at your stuff, brother. He's like, come on, man. I go, bro, I'm not looking at your stuff. I go, did you hear that whistle? He's like, yeah, you. I go, man, that was not me. I didn't whistle at you. He's like, okay, I'm going to keep my eye on you. So we started walking down the trail again. And I said, how far away, and he's like, oh, we're probably 30, 45 minutes tops. Okay. So about 10 minutes down, I go, man, I got to go to the bathroom. So I get ready to start relieving myself. That's when I hear another whistle, but this time it's not on my right. Oh, no, it is. It's coming from my right. And my brother just grabbed me real quick, and he pulled me back. And about that time, like a branch or like a dead piece of wood came sailing through the air and hit the tree I was just standing next to. And my brother just says, we got to go. And we started getting back up, and we started taking off. Now, my brother was a big dude. His cardio was not his thing. So as we're moving along, he's like, man, I'm getting tired. I'm like, oh, I say, come on, man, we can do this. We're almost to the main trail. And as I watched him go, he was probably 20 steps ahead of me. It's like he almost dropped to his knees. And he's like, I got this massive headache. My chest is hurting. He goes, I feel like I'm going to throw up. And he's like dry heaving. So I come over and I give him some water. I'm like, come on, man, just drink it. Come on, let's stand up. Because I can't. I'm dizzy. I'm like, come on, let's go. He's like, man, I just can't. I go, I get him up. He starts getting a little bit orientated. So we start going, and I'm like, listen, man, I'll stay behind you. Just keep going. So as we're walking, all of a sudden I drop to my knee. I drop down to my knee, and I start throwing up. I get a massive headache. My chest is tight. It's starting to hurt. For a second, I thought I was having a heart attack. I say, man, I'm between throwing up, and he comes over, he grabs my water jug, and he starts giving me water. He's like, come on, man. And he just hoisted me up like I was a sack of potatoes. He's like, come on, get your feet underneath you. Let's go. And he's like, okay, let's go. So I start taking off, and he's coming up behind me, and he's like, man, I'm just gassed. I can't go anymore. And I'm like, man, we're right there. There's the trail. Let's go. So we get to the main trail, and we're trying to move as fast as we can. We get right up to probably 25 yards from where we see the bank that goes down the trail. It goes up onto the main road. And my brother just stops. He's like, man, I can't go anymore. I am gassed. He goes, I'll just walk. I'm like, man, you can't walk. Something's out here. We got to go. Because the whole time we hear it as we're running up the trails. We hear it on our right-hand side. So we go up, we get on the road, and now I'm looking towards where his car is parked. And he's looking at me so he can see what's behind me. And I'm like, listen, man, we got to go. And he just freezes. And the look on his face, he goes, I just saw it run behind you. It just crossed the street behind you. And he goes, tell Mom I love her. And I go, what are you talking about? He's like, give me your knife. I'm going to stay here so you can get back to the car. And I'm like, no, man. He's like, just tell Mom I love her. Remember, I love you, and just go. And I'm like, man. And I slapped him. And I grabbed his knife, and I go, just go. I'm faster than you. I'll catch up to you. Don't stop. Just keep going. And I hear this thing over on the side of the road, and I've got both knives in my hand, and I'm like, come on. And my mindset is I'm protecting my little brother. I'm military. I'm a war fighter. I'm a trained killer. I'm ready to rock and roll. And I'm like, come on, you mother effer. You want to go? You want a piece of me? Come on, let's go. And I'm screaming as loud as I can. And I'm like showing him I got knives, and I'm like, I want to go. And I hear this thing literally tearing underbrush and snapping limbs right forward and to the left of me. And all of a sudden I hear my little brother go, come on, let's go. And I see him turning the bend where I can just see the edge of the parking lot. So I know he's there. So I just turn around, and at a dead sprint, I run as fast as I can. As I come around the bend and into the parking lot, my brother is just waiting by the door of his car. I Dukes of Hazzard across the hood of the car. I don't stick the landing. I land on my back. I grab the keys out of my breast pocket, unlock the door, throw my stuff in. He gets in the car. He's like, go, 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 go. I step on it, and we start going. I take off out of the parking lot. I turn right, and he's like, come on, you got to go faster. It's right there. I can see it. It's right there. And I'm kind of looking and driving at the same time. I don't see nothing. He's like, it's right there. I see it. And so I keep going, come up to a T-stop. If I'd have turned right, it would have took us deeper into the park. I turned left, and it took us right out towards the main highway. But as soon as I whipped that corner, took the left, fishtailed the end of the car, I thought I was going to go into the ditch. And we took off, and that V8 kicked in, and we left. We'd never been back there. And since that time, I was 20 years old when that happened. I'm 53 now, and I've never gone deep in the woods again. I'll go hiking on designated trails. I will not step off a designated trail.
That was in Tennessee?
Yeah. Shelby County, Tennessee.
Wow.
Interesting.
Mhm.
By the way, I have that voice mail. I bet a lot of people haven't heard it.
I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? Okay,
No.
so I'm going to play this. Probably not going to be the greatest quality because it's not downloaded, but I'll just play it in my mic. It's quite freaky. This area that Reed and Joe and I've had my encounter, and we're very close to your house, Daniel, is all connected by this kind of, they call it the Rice Creek chain.
Mm-hmm.
Is one name for it, but I just call it the chain of lakes that runs from even south of White Bear, all the way up north, past Forest Lake, quite a bit past Forest Lake. And it's a whole bunch of lakes that are trophicated and surrounded by woods. But okay, here, let me play this. Are you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Get my volume up, and here we go.
There are 2 minutes worth of noises, bizarre ones, but very little actual talking. Authorities confirmed the disturbing middle-of-the-night call came from Henry McCabe's cell phone. It was Labor Day, September 7th at 2:28 in the morning. McCabe's worried wife heard the message.
Isn't my cell phone connected?
Minnesota Community Police.
Anyhow, did you guys hear that okay?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard that before.
And you've never heard that, Daniel?
I have never heard that audio.
So that happened in the same little corridor that Reed had his encounter. So when when I always say they intimidate, well, maybe they don't. We don't know. We just don't know. And maybe that's not what happened to him. Maybe there was a human encounter. Maybe, who knows? I mean, you can come up with a million reasons. But one of the theories is he ran into one of these creatures and it, just took him out and drowned him. So
I think personally, if you show fear, that they have an instinctive response to attack.
Yeah, it could be.
If you're screaming and you're running, they just like a bear. They're going to pounce on you. But with that recording, if you ever listen to that recording with headphones on, you can hear the growling in the background.
Yeah, it's weird.
Thanks.
And it's almost as if he's trying to, let's just say that creature would have walked up to you, Reed,
mm-hmm.
and it started like coming towards you. You would have used your words and like, stop, don't, you would have used whatever words you had.
I think I might have had a heart attack, honestly.
Yeah, but okay, I'm going to play it again. Somebody said replay it. Let me just replay it one more time here.
It's a voicemail unlike anything you've ever heard before. There are 2 minutes worth of noises, bizarre ones, but very little actual talking. Authorities confirmed the disturbing middle-of-the-night call came from Henry McCabe's cell phone.
So to me, it sounds like somebody's in pain or extremely scared.
Well, you can hear him screaming.
Yeah.
But if you really listen to it with headphones, between him screaming, you can hear growling in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Thanks. That's terrifying.
It really is, because
I personally think that if he saw a bear, he wouldn't be screaming like that.
No.
He's screaming like he sees it.
I would agree.
I mean, it does sound like he was being attacked, or, I picture what would a Bigfoot do to a human that was, in that state of mind. It would probably toy with us, kind of like, guy falls into the polar bear den. The polar bear just kind of toys with it in a rough way,
So Greg Olson in the chat said that the body was found without a mark on it.
Yes, correct.
And you said he found it floating in a lake?
Floating in a lake, yeah. Like a long time later. I could throw a lot of crazy theories out there. Remember the Albert Osman story where he was held captive for a while?
Mm-hmm.
Guy could have been part of the problem. The fact he didn't have any marks on him doesn't mean much. He might have just been scared by this thing or by something he saw, and he just might have went into the lake, right into the water to save himself.
How old was
he? And drowned. I mean, that's another explanation.
Do we know how old he was?
Oh, it's a young guy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, definitely young guy. 30s,
Jeez.
Yeah, I think he was late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, he was young. He was young, and it's just, it's just one of those things that we're never going to really know And then do we really know what they've edited out of that recording? And do we really know what the autopsy really showed?
Missing 411.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember it was my son Blaine actually played that for David Pilates for the first time. And then David kind of, got involved in it a little bit. And another guy locally here did an extraordinary re-step of everything. And I think everybody's gotten it wrong. All I know is he cut through that Rice Creek area.
Wow.
The area that we've all had this fun with. And do that in the middle of the night, you never know what might have happened.
Was he just taking a shortcut home or something?
Yeah, taking a shortcut. Yep.
Wow.
He was on foot.
Yeah,
And he was taking a shortcut
not the place
home.
to do that.
Yeah. There's not a chance I would walk through there alone at night. There's not a chance after what I've seen and what I know. And all the people I've talked to, there's no way I wouldn't do it.
I'm going to.
Well, yeah. Hopefully you have a little pew pew with you.
Yeah,
Doug,
just don't do it at 2 in the morning.
Huh?
Just don't do it at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, 2 in the morning.
That's.
Oh God. So okay, where do we want to go? No, you've had an encounter, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to? And it happened in Washington, correct?
So my sighting was in Washington.
Right.
Prior to my sighting, I realized after doing a lot of investigating by way of videos and stories and audios and firsthand encounters and things like that, I made myself a checklist, and I started listening to these different encounters. And I'm like, well, that happened to me.
Yeah.
I've heard that. I've seen that, and everything's checking out. And I realized that when I was 7, I had like my first encounter. A couple years later, I had another encounter, but I'm not saying that they were Sasquatch. And the reason I'm not saying because I never saw anything, but all of the evidence, everything off the check marks out of the boxes, it all adds up to that. I had my sighting in 84. I had another sighting while I was stationed at Fort Dix, New Jersey, out in the Pine Barrens. To this day, I still don't know what that was. Multiple people saw it, and I was ordered by the captain, the duty officer at the time. I was ordered to keep my mouth shut, or I was going to be kicked out of the military and thrown in jail to scare me. So I didn't say anything until I was well out of the military about that. And then I just had that one encounter I just told about my little brother and I. So you want to hear about my sighting, or?
Yeah. That's what I'm
cool.
hoping you'll tell us.
Sure. So prior to the sighting, I was living with my mom and my stepdad. I've always had issues with the step family. And so one step parent wouldn't like me, so I'd shipped off to that other parent. So this is what happens. My stepdad wasn't too fond of me, so me and my little brother moved back with my dad. My dad was newly single. And so we moved back to Washington State in a little area called Graham, Washington, which is like kind of northeast of Tacoma. And when we first moved in with my dad, he was staying in an adult RV park up on top of Graham Hill. My dad knew that wasn't an area that he didn't want us to grow up in. So unbeknownst to us, was able to purchase a 5-acre plot of land. And it was about 4.5 acres of it was nothing but trees, pine trees and other native trees. And then he had cleared a little bit of this area. Now, we didn't know that this was happening. So when my dad one day came and picked us up from my aunt's house, who lived in Tacoma, we were hanging out there for the weekend. When he was driving home, he just blew right by the RV park. We're like, where are you going? He's like, I want to show you guys something. So we go down a ways, make all the turns we need to. We come up to this gravel road. We turn onto this gravel road. Now, back in the day when I was 12, this gravel road, I thought it was like 5 miles long. In actuality, it's probably 1.5 miles, maybe almost 2 miles. and our place was down on the left-hand side. My dad shows us all this type of stuff. He pulls in, he shows us, this is where we're living. And I was like, this is cool. So me and my brother started, investigating the property. And one night there's a huge storm. It was one of those storms, like every time the thunder hit, it rattled everything. We were living in a fifth wheel because my dad was going to build a house, and he'd already marked everything up out on the ground to where the foundation and everything was going to be. And so every time this thunder would hit, it would shake the fifth wheel. And I started dozing off, and I felt like our fifth wheel was going like this. It was tipping over, and it came back down. I open up the window, and I see, just as a flash of lightning pops into the air, I see this thing walk underneath this tree limb and then off into the woods. Well, I freak out and I tell my dad, it's a Bigfoot. It's a Bigfoot. My brother's not awake. You could set a bomb off next to him, he wouldn't wake up. My dad's like, don't say nothing. I don't want to hear you say that. That's not what it was. You probably saw a shadow or something. I go, Dad, I saw what I saw. So the next morning, I go outside, and it had rained all night long. I'm looking out on the edge of the woods where I saw it go in, and I'm like, it looks like something's over here, but you couldn't really tell if there was a print or anything. And so I go, Dad, he went underneath this limb right here on this tree. And he's like, where? I go, like right there. He was like this close, the top of his head was like this close to where where he touched the limb with his head. And he's like, wait a minute. So he goes and opens up the shed, pulls out a tape measure, and he starts putting the tape measure up. And he's like, right here? I go, yeah, about right there. He's like, there's no way you did not see anything. He's like, Daniel, this is like 8.5 feet tall. I'm like, Dad, that's what I saw. He's like, no, you didn't. I go, Dad, yes, I did. So we turn around, and I go, Dad, look at that. And I point to the side of the camper, and there's a huge dent in the side of this camper. How the wall didn't press in, like rip open, I'll never know. But what also I pointed out was that the cement blocks that my dad had placed his camper on, a few of them were busted. And then the anchor straps that he used to tie it down, 2 of them were pulled completely out of the ground. And these were anchored down like 4 or 5 feet. And they were completely pulled up out of the ground. And I go, see, it was a Bigfoot. And my brother comes outside. He's like, what was what? And I go, it was my dad goes, well, a tree limb hit the camper last night. He's like, oh, that's what that noise was. And he didn't give a second thought. My dad looked at me. He's like, don't say nothing. Fast forward a couple months after that, we had spent like a whole week over at my aunt's house. We're coming home, and it's like 11 o'clock midnight. And as we're coming down off of the main paved road down onto the gravel road, my dad's lights, as they tipped down, I saw eye shine ahead and up on the right hand side, the passenger side of the vehicle. And I'm sitting in the front seat. And I'm like, Dad, I just saw eye shine. There's something up on the road. He's like, well, it'll hear us coming or see our lights. It'll move off the road. Not worried about it. I go, Dad, you turn your brights on. He's like, nah, don't worry about it. He had put some like driving lights or fog lights, whatever you want to call them, on his car. And he angled them out because in this area were tons of deer. If you saw one deer, there were 100. Like there were so many deer around there. There were porcupine, coyotes, just a bunch of wildlife. And so my dad had him faced out like this so he could see the sides of the roads in case my dad liked to show off. He had a Mustang, and that he would hot rod up and down that gravel road. And so he didn't want to get it blasted by a deer. So the road had a few little dips in it, a couple little rises. And as we're going down, we're getting closer. We go down a little dip, come back up the rise. And I go, Dad, it's still there. I can see the eye shine still. And he's like, it'll move when we get closer. I'm like, Dad, you got to turn your brights on. And he's like, don't worry about it. So we go back down one of these little dips, and we come up, and when we get to the very crest of the top of that rise, he hits his brights in the driving lights, and it lit everything up. And this thing was like crouched down, not directly on the road, but off to the side of the road. And she kept standing up and standing up and standing up. And I go, I'm getting goosebumps. I look at this thing, and she goes like this, raises her arm to block the lights from hitting her face. When she turns like at the waist. And you guys are hearing me say she because it was a female. I saw her breast. She then dropped her arm, turned, and like took 2 steps off. So she did like a 180-degree turn. So I also saw her backside. And she took like 2 or 3 steps off the side of the road. My dad didn't speed up. My dad didn't slow down. He wasn't even going fast when we first got onto the road because of what I seen earlier. He thought it might have been a deer. As we started driving by, I kind of guessed where we had just seen her. So I kind of peeked up because I had dropped down into the floorboard. I peeked up and I'm looking out the window, and there was enough light from how the angle of my dad's fog lights or driving lights were that I could still see off into the woods where I assumed she walked off into. And she was standing just inside the trees. And I watched her blink her eyes. Now the eye shine that I saw was like a dark amber, almost a reddish color. And for some reason, I was thinking deer, but I know deer don't have that type of eye shine. We didn't stop. Like I said, he didn't speed up. He just drove slowly by like he normally was and went off and pulled into where our house was. Well, I didn't even let him stop the car. I had opened up the car door. I jumped out of a moving car, jumped up over the stairs onto our deck, opened up our door, and jumped in on my dad's bed. A couple seconds later, my dad comes in carrying my little brother, and he puts him up on the little loft area where we sleep. He immediately goes to the cupboards. He starts pulling out fruit, vegetables out of the refrigerator, takes it outside, puts it on a table that's sitting out on our deck, goes around, gets in the shed, pulls out a ladder, puts the ladder up. And what he's doing is my dad had a pole that he had put on the end of this deck, and he put a wooden platform on the top of this pole because he was a bird watcher, and he was going to he was building a bird feeder to put up on this platform so he could watch birds from the window that's right next to where the little stairs are. He gets the ladder out and he puts it up, takes all the food, puts the food all up there, comes into the camper, grabs a rag, takes a tube out of his back pocket. And I later learned that the tube was grease, and he squirted it in this rag, and he ran it up as high as he could on the pole all the way down to the railing. And I'm watching him, and I go, Dad, what are you doing that for? And he's like, so no animals get that food. And I'm like, oh, you mean like raccoons? And he's like, yep, raccoons. Now, when he confirmed that for me, that's where my mind went. I'm like, oh, okay, so raccoons. I completely for a moment forgot about what we had just seen probably 20 or 30 minutes earlier. So he comes back in, grabs his cigarettes, steps outside, shuts the door a little bit, and he's smoking. Well, now I'm getting nosy, so I want to hear what my dad, because I hear him talking. And I hear him say something to the fact of, we saw you. We know you saw us. These are my boys. We're a family. We just want to live here. We don't want any trouble. That up there is yours. Just please don't scare or hurt my boys. He comes back in. I'm like, who are you talking to? And he's like, oh, I was praying. And I go, Dad, you didn't say amen. And he kind of chuckled. He goes, oh, amen. And as I'm sitting on his bed, he's looking at me and he's like, do you want to sleep? And you want to sleep with me tonight? I'm like, yes. And he slept on a queen-sized sleeper sofa. Okay. So I'm laying in bed and I'm next to the wall that's facing the woods where a few months earlier, I still swear that I saw a Sasquatch. but my dad said I didn't. You guys know the sound of like heavy weights that are being placed on wood, like that groaning, that popping, that creaking, cracking sound. My eyes shoot open, and I kind of remember it's like around 1, maybe 2 in the morning, and I hear this loud pop and crack and groan as something stepping onto our deck. Now, we had 4 steps that led up to the top of our deck, and it sounded like something stepped onto the deck. And I snap my head over, and my dad goes like this. And I'm like, what? He goes, they're out there, And I'm like, holy smokes. So I'm kind of hanging on to my dad. I'm calm right now. As I'm got my arm against the wall, I hear and I feel something go boop, 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 like run right by the backside of our camper. Now I look at my dad, and my dad's like this. I'm almost certain I was started to cry. And he's like this. He's telling me to be quiet. So I put my hand over my mouth, and I hear more creaking, like another one is stepping onto the deck. This went on for, it seemed like minutes. It was probably seconds. And this is what really freaked me out, is that all of a sudden I heard something like that. That's a poor rendition of what I heard, but it was something like that. And now I know I'm probably losing it. I look over, my dad's got one of his little pew-pews on his chest. I'm hanging on to my dad. He reaches over, he pulls me tighter into him, and we hear this go on what it seemed like for minutes. I must have cried myself to sleep. The window that was in our door, the door into the camper, was like one of those bathroom windows. So you couldn't see out of it, but you could see into it, but it let light in. And the drapes or blinds that we had on there were partially open. So I don't know if my dad got up in the middle and maybe tried to look out there or see if he could see something. I don't know. But the sun was shining in, and it woke me up. My dad's asleep. I jump up and jump over my dad off of the bed, open up the door, and I run out onto the deck. Now, I climbed up on the railing. I wasn't supposed to, but I did it anyway. And as I'm using the railing like a trapeze line, I'm looking, and I could see there's nothing at all on this platform. There's nothing. I jump off. My dad starts coming to the door, and he's like, were you just on the... I go, Dad, all the GD food is gone. They ate all the effing food. And he's like, stop saying that. And I'm like, Dad, it's all gone. He's like, what do you mean? So he starts looking, and as he's looking, I walk over to the pole, and I see where something had grabbed the pole, like in different heights and different parts of the pole. What was really crazy is that you could tell something had ran a finger from as high up as it could reach all the way down to where the bottom of the grease was, and then like wiped its finger off on the railing. And I'm like, Dad, they took it all. Look at this. They touched the pole. And he's like, calm down. Don't tell your brother. Just knock it off. So I kept that from my brother, that whole encounter. This was during the summer time frame when this incident happened. Same property. My dad was working. We were at home. And I hear my dad come home. And I hear him slam his door. And he's like, well, what the F? And he comes in. He's like, Daniel. I go, yeah. He goes, where's the burn barrel? Because out in the country, you burn your trash.
Yeah.
And he had an old 55-gallon drum. And he had emptied 2 bags of like sand. So like 40 pounds of sand to the bottom of this, because we did occasionally get some heavy winds, and he didn't want the burn barrel blowing all over the place. And he's like, where's the burn barrel? I go, what are you talking about? He goes, like, what did you do with the burn barrel? I go, Dad, I didn't do nothing with the burn barrel. He goes, come out here and explain this to me. My little brother's sitting there playing Atari, not paying attention. we go out and I go, Dad, where's the burn barrel? He's like, that's what I'm asking you. What did you do with it? I go, Dad, I didn't do nothing. He goes, Daniel, where did you move it? I go, Dad, I'm not even 100 pounds. The burn barrel probably weighs more than me. Where am I going to move it? So we start looking around. And for some reason, I just walked to where that thing had walked in months earlier. And I walked in probably about 25, 30 meters. And I go, Dad, I found the barrel. He's like, what do you mean you found the barrel? I go, something threw the barrel into the woods. And he's like, what? And I go, yeah, something threw the barrel. My brother then comes out around. He's like, who threw what? And I go, Bobby, a Bigfoot threw the barrel in the woods. And then my dad smacked me in the back of the head because he didn't want me to tell my little brother that we've got Bigfoot in the area, right? He goes, well, I don't think it was one of the little ones that I saw. And then me and my dad are like, whoa, what? He's like, oh, yeah, I saw a couple small ones. You're like, whoa, what are you talking about? And my dad's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, when we cook out and we take the speakers from inside, we put them on the deck so we can listen to music. He goes, I've seen them a couple times where they would come into the tree line, they'd sit down and they would listen to the music. And he goes, I saw him go over there one day and I went in and got a couple of my baseballs and I walked out into this little field, little clearing area that we have. He goes, and I threw them. I threw them out there, out to the trees to them, see if they wanted to play. Maybe they would throw it back. And he goes, I've never seen those baseballs again.
Wow.
And we're like, holy smokes. But from now that point on, my brother even said, oh, I saw one of the small ones jump out of our treehouse that we'd built.
It reminds me the burn barrel being gone of Reed's bike being dragged away or lifted out of there.
But what we were able to kind of determine through my dad and my brother and I is it was a family unit.
Yeah.
We saw the mom, the one that hit the camper and messed with the burn barrel. I'm thinking it was like the younger, like adult, like maybe 18 to 20, 21. Then there was two juveniles. My brother said the biggest one was as tall as my dad. My dad was like 5'7", and the smallest one he said was as maybe shorter than my dad. And then I never really got a really good look at the dad, the male. But one time when I was up in the treehouse, I just got this really weird feeling. I'm like, Bobby, I go, man, we need to get out of here. He's like, yeah, I feel it too. And I look out the window just in time, maybe 40 yards from us. I see this peek out and then peek back and then come on the other side and come back. But it wasn't like, here, take a good look at me. It was like, oh crap, he's looking. Oh crap, he's looking. And this thing was way bigger than the female and way bigger than the young adult. But yeah, that's my encounter.
Wow.
And that was in Washington?
Yeah, Washington. Well, Washington State, Graham, Washington. It's kind of near Mount Rainier. But another thing is on October 25th, my dad got in a really, really bad accident. He was almost killed in this car accident. He was ejected from the car. The car was rolling and hit my dad. I get a phone call at like 4:15 in the morning because we had to catch our bus by 5:30. And he's like, Daniel. I go, yeah. I go, Dad. I go, are you okay? He's like, no. He goes, I'm at work, but I'm getting ready to go to the hospital. I was in a car accident. I just want you to know that I'm going to be okay. Called your aunt, and she's going to come and pick you up. So kind of pick up everything and get your stuffs ready to go because you're going to be staying. We're going to be staying with your aunt for a little while. I'm like, okay. So that October 25th, she comes out later in the day. She picks us up. And my dad, my brother, and I, we did not see that property again until the following spring. And when we went out there, if anybody knows what a fifth wheel is, they have that loft up there. And there's usually a window in front, and there's a window on each side. And that's pretty tall, All the windows completely around the fifth wheel look like someone was trying to look into the windows. There were prints all over each window, and I'm I can't say for sure it's what it was, but I'm just assuming it was probably the Sasquatch trying to look into the camper, because one day we're there and the next day we're gone. And that's what I'm thinking. But it didn't look like there was any attempts to force entry or anything like that. So
No, your dad was a complete believer, obviously.
oh, absolutely. My dad has had encounters going back to when he was a teenager living up in Alaska. He believes he had a sighting, an encounter, face-to-face encounter with a Kushtaka. And he believed until the day that he passed away that he saw a werewolf. And that's probably one of the scariest encounters that I've ever heard my dad ever tell. He to the day he passed away, he believes he saw a werewolf.
Okay. Do you know this story well?
Oh, I know. My dad's told, because I laughed at it the first time, and then I kind of cracked jokes. But he was hunting. It was right before he was either going to basic training or right before he was going to Vietnam for his first tour. And he was up in Alaska, Ketchikan, Alaska, and he was hunting elk. And he was going down this old logging road. And as he was driving or walking down this road, he saw this herd of elk come down off this hillside, cross right in front of him. He said there was probably about 20 to 25 elk in this herd, and they were just going down the ravine, down through the bottom, and then back up on another ridge that was about 200 to 400 yards away. And so he runs up as soon as he sees the last one go across. He feet it to the area where they went down. He takes his rifle off, he sets it down. He gets on his belly and he starts glassing with his binoculars. And he's watching, he's looking, and he sees them where they're coming up. But as he went like left and then back to right, he said he saw something coming from the left part of the left side on the ridge that these elk were going up, but near about halfway between the top of the ridge and the bottom. And he sit there and he was looking, and he started kind of focusing in, and he said it was the biggest, blackest wolf that he'd ever seen. And he's like, I couldn't believe that I'm watching this single wolf look like he's going after this herd of elk. He goes, then it stood up. And I go, what do you mean it stood up? He goes, it stood up on its hind legs and put its hand. And he said it didn't look like a human hand, but for story's purposes, I put his hand on the tree he stood up next to, and it starts sniffing the air. And for whatever reason, it just stopped sniffing and looked right at my dad. Like he caught my dad's scent, and he looked right at my dad. And he said it showed its teeth, and it dropped down on two legs and started coming down towards the bottom of the ravine, like it's coming right to him. And he lost it. So he's still looking, and he goes, if that thing's coming up faster, I'm going to get armed. So he grabs his rifle and he messes with the scope, and he looks down and he catches it with the scope, and he's looking. And about that time, when he was debating whether he was going to shoot, one of the bull elks bugled, and it stopped. And it turned around and ran back up towards the ridge that these elk were going up over. And it again stopped, stood up, and looked right at my dad again, and then took off running on two legs up the ridge, chasing where the elk were.
Wow.
And
wow.
To hear him tell that story and to see, my dad's a combat vet. He was. My dad was wounded in Vietnam on his second tour. My dad saw combat. He saw gnarly stuff over in Vietnam. And to see the fear and terror in his face, in his eyes, when he told that story, it was like he was going right back to it, and he was reliving it all over again.
Wow. Ooh, so I have to ask Reed. I want to get a question in with Reed. Have you become pretty much a believer in these things at this point, Reed? Or do you feel there's still a lot of skepticism?
No, there's no skepticism, because
okay.
I went from a person that wasn't a believer at all to I went doing research, as much as I could, every rabbit hole you could think of. That wasn't my first encounter, believe it or not. A girl I know north of Stillwater, I don't know if anyone knows where the High Bridge is that goes from Minnesota, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
There's a road called Brevard Road. It's a dirt road, and she used to chuckle about that rock throwing story. And she would always tell me, in a polite way, I entertain the idea, which was just a nice way of saying I don't believe it at all. We actually saw one, and she calls it the hairy-legged creature, standing in the sunlight. The strangest thing, and I know this is unbelievable, all I saw was a pair of legs, waist down legs, nothing on top, and it wasn't standing behind anything. And I have, after LASIK eye surgery, like 20/30 eyesight. She has like beyond good eyesight, like eagle eyes. She has like 20/10 eyesight. She can see a plane flying with a banner behind it, and she can read it. And when I saw the legs, I had a split second to say, am I the only one seeing this right now? She sees it, screams, grabs my arm and says, give me your knife. And it sidestepped real fast. And it sidestepped, its legs went like triangular shape, and 3 times it was gone. I don't know why I didn't see the top of its body. When I first saw it, the coloring was brownish auburn red. And I first thought deer or horse. But the legs they weren't like bodybuilder legs. They were thicker, but they were really tall, like mine, because I'm 6'3", but these legs were taller than mine.
Well, what do you mean you just saw the legs? I mean, was it behind something? How?
No, that's what's really, really, I know this is really hard to believe, but it was standing at a T-section of a trail. And if it was standing 10 feet back,
so you're talking, you just saw 2 legs.
Just legs.
Where was the upper half?
Not even there. It was the weirdest thing ever. Whether it was bent over at the waist or it could cloak itself, it's the weirdest thing ever. And I know it's strange to hear, but there's a witness there. And when it happened, I don't know if she would ever come on the show and talk about it. But it sidestepped and took off running. But it wasn't hiding behind bushes. And I don't know why. It was like 2:30 in the afternoon on a weekend in Stillwater, where I don't know how I didn't see. The only possible thing I can think of is I was so shocked at what I was seeing that my mind and my eyes were just asphyxiated on the legs. I thought possibly I was looking at a deer or a horse, but the legs were thick and taller than mine. But what I noticed was there wasn't fur. It was long hair, and it was kind of blowing in the wind, and the sun was shining on it. I couldn't see skin behind it, but it was just really long, brownish red hair.
So and you're sure they were legs?
Oh, they were legs. They were definitely legs. I could see the knees, the thighs, up to the waist, but there was nothing above the waist. But as soon as she screamed and grabbed my arm, that's when it sidestepped 3 times and it just took off.
That's a pretty crazy.
And the funny thing was I looked straight at her and I said, "Do you still entertain the idea?" And she got mad that I said that to her. And then, like, she did not want to go hiking anymore. But this was like on a weekend when the sun was shining on it. It doesn't make any sense. I would like for her to talk to you about this, because another instance in the same spot, if you were to hike down this old, it's almost like a really old boat landing that goes down to the St. Croix River. her and her friend were on paddle boards, and she had parked up there, and her friend thought Bigfoot was just ridiculous. She would laugh about it. And they went paddleboarding, and it was dusk, and they came back to this little, like, it's not really a boat landing, but it looks like it. And my friend Sarah was still on the river on her paddleboard, and her friend.
Well, hang on. Let's just stop for 1 second, because people need to know how wild that river is.
It's a hot
federally
spot,
protected, forested, beautiful river. Everything had to be grandfathered in. Stillwater's there. That town was built like 175 years ago.
Yeah.
But the rivers, in fact, there's tons of sightings along the St. Croix River. So,
see,
okay.
I need to do a lot more digging about that area. I really do, because I thought I do.
I would recommend going to the St. Croix River Valley from Stillwater all the way past Osceola.
Yeah.
Beautiful area.
Like, I've floated that area. I've canoed it. I've kayaked it. I've
Doug, we
boated
need to bike it.
It's crazy.
I've heard vocalization there with that girl. Well, what I was getting to is
finish your story.
What this story is another time there's two people. There was two witnesses. One girl who thought the idea of it was ridiculous. Now, the same girl I saw, she calls it the hairy-legged creature. Well, they were about to get off their paddle boards to walk up this long hill to get to her vehicle. And her friend gets off first, and she squats down to pee. And my friend Sarah starts laughing at her. And they're kind of chuckling about it. And like what happened to me, a large stone got thrown into the river right next to my friend Sarah. Similar situation, it arced in the air. And her friend instantly starts crying. She saw it happen. And she got on the paddleboard, and they started paddling towards Stillwater, even though her car was parked up the hill.
Yeah.
And I'm at home. And this is during the summertime. It's 9:30. And I just get out of the shower and my phone rings. Well, it's her. I pick up the phone and I hear frantic panicking in the background. I hear a girl crying. And my friend Sarah just keeps asking me, "Where are you? Where are you?" And I said, "I'm at home." He goes, "Are you sure you're at home?" And I said, "Yeah, I just got out of the shower." He said, "You're sure you're at home?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm at home. Why do you keep asking me this?" And she, I think, trying to make sense of it, she says, "Are you sure you weren't hiding in the woods throwing boulders at us?" And I was like, that is utterly ridiculous. I wouldn't do that. That's weird. That's creepy. Why would I hide in the woods at night throwing rocks at people? And I said, "I don't know how you want me to prove this to you. Do you want me to take a picture of me sitting on my couch at home to prove to you that I didn't do this?" Meanwhile, her friend is crying in the background. So she was like, "Swear to God, you have to swear to God that wasn't you." And I said, "Well, I wouldn't ever do that. And I don't know what to tell you, but I'm at home." And she says, "I'm not going to my car." So they ended up paddling all the way down to downtown Stillwater, where the old lift bridge is. And her friend would not go with her. My friend had to call up an Uber to drive her to her vehicle and then drive back. And her friend would never go out with her ever again to go paddleboarding on the St. Croix or to ever go to Harley again. But it would be interesting to have her, because again, it's not just one person. It happened to two people at the same time. I'll have to talk to her and see.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to her.
If she and her friend would actually.
That's crazy.
Talk to you about that.
Yeah, that whole area, though, is a real hotbed because it's woods, water, and hills. Got a lot of hills. And there's so much game and deer, and it's really an amazing area. Beautiful area.
From what I found out is they really like to eat clams that are in the river.
Yeah, there's a lot of clams. A lot of shallow water for hunting. Like if you're a Bigfoot and you want to catch fish, the St. Croix is beautiful because there's sandbars everywhere. You can walk way out. You can see the fish. Have you ever fished the St. Croix, Reed?
I to this day I still go from the High Bridge to Osceola. I hike all those bluffs and all the river areas
okay.
there. And I don't typically go fishing while I'm there. I bring like a little cooking kit. I cook out there. I camped out there with Sarah once on one of the sandbars. And an interesting story is we heard coyotes on Minnesota side to the Wisconsin side vocalizing, like a zigzagging all the way up the river. And there's a really creepy spot I know that nobody goes to because it's really steep terrain. It'd be a nice place to do some research. We heard the loudest yell scream that you could feel in your chest. And she was already packing up her stuff. Like, let's get out of here. Let's just go. And I knew it was far off. But the interesting thing is all these different packs of coyotes, they just shut up and you didn't hear them for the rest of the night. It was just done. And I knew exactly what the yell was. It was so loud that if a person couldn't do that, I don't know of any animal that could come close to that powerful of a yell.
I think Reed's you probably even have more stories.
There's several at the High Bridge area.
Yeah, geez.
I've seen eyes shine. Sarah has another story that it was me, her, and her younger daughter, and we were hauling up stuff from the river, and it was already past dusk, and we had headlamps on our foreheads. And I always told Sarah, because her daughter was young, I'm like, never lose sight of your daughter. Don't let her be behind or anything. And she lagged behind me a little bit, and we're almost to the car. And she yelled super loud, "It's looking at me! It's looking at me!"
Oh
and she runs past me, and I was like, "What do you mean it's looking at me?" I didn't know what she was talking about. So I stepped 2 to 3 feet back to where she was when she said that, and she runs past me with my headlamp on. I look forward. I see a head poking outside of a tree sideways, and all I see is one eyeball, an almond-shaped eyeball that was bigger than mine, and a head that's taller than me. Well, I'm 6'3", and I'm guessing this was around 7 feet tall. A head sticking out from around a tree, just looking at it. So she runs off, her kid runs off in the car. She's panicking. So I just start walking to where the car was. And she's shaking. She's throwing everything in the car. She's yelling, "I don't ever want to come back here ever again. I've had enough of this shit. I can't handle this anymore." And when I asked her, "What did you see?" And she says, "I saw 2 eyes and a head and shoulders like sticking out from the side of a tree, staring at her." But by the time she ran and I walked back to where she was, all I saw was a head. It was a black silhouette of a head and one eyeball sticking its head around the tree. And then that's when I walked really fast. I didn't run, but I walked pretty fast to where the car was parked. But yeah, when she saw it, it was leaning outside of the tree, but she saw the head, 2 eyes staring right at her. And then it wasn't even far away. Where I was standing, it was within like 12, 15 feet of where I was. So I would say if anybody wants to do any research, that High Bridge area, for whatever reason, at dusk and at nighttime, but definitely dusk is when weird things start happening.
Let's go.
So I go there quite often, but I do not stay there till dusk. I don't like the phenomenon.
Okay, well, you guys are gonna we'll have to get together with Blaine too, because he knows some really amazing Bigfoot spots along the St. Croix. He's had years of encounters Not visual ones, but rocks and all these kind of crazy things. Where they camp along the St. Croix River. It's really a wild, amazing area. But he's got just jillions of stories. We're gonna all have to get together, I guess.
Yep.
Right, the Minnesota boys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
I know some other Minnesota researchers that we can meet up with, and we can maybe get together over there in Centerville.
Be great.
There's another thing that happens at that High Bridge area this has happened a few times now, that I'll cook food there, and then after that I hear all kinds of clicking, rock clicking noises. I don't know if it's vocalizations clicking.
That's
and
interesting.
I know exactly what a woodpecker sounds like.
Yeah.
But if you ever hear rocks clicking together, like little stones.
Rocks are rocks.
I've heard it multiple times there. Have
you ever heard it? Any kind of like buzzing or humming sounds?
Have I ever heard it?
Yeah, Reed.
I haven't heard the humming or buzzing sounds, but rock clicking I've heard several times.
That's interesting. David Ellis goes, clicking. You have my attention. Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know if that's a form of communication or just to tell another Bigfoot that's where it is. I have no idea. It freaks me out every time, though. That's pretty much when I pack up my stuff when I leave.
Somebody's asking about International Falls. That's where I had my first encounter up there when I was quite young. Up there by Orr, Minnesota, right near International Falls. Yeah, it's a crazy wild area. I've had several incidents up there. All right. Well, anyhow, it's 10:03. We got to wind it up here. Daniel, obviously you're going to be back. We're going to talk about getting your show up and running on the Untold Radio Network. So we're excited about that.
We need to meet. Let's look towards April timeframe.
Yeah, it sounds good.
I'll take another Monday off. We'll hang out.
Yeah, it sounds perfect.
Then I can meet Alex
and Reed. If you guys want to get together, I will give Daniel your number. And
sure.
I really appreciate.
I'll take him to that spot in Lino Lakes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's, don't leave me out of that. I want to be there.
Ooh,
I'll bring I'll
me too.
film everything, Jeff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll get out there and do that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Reed. I'm glad you were on the show tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Kind of a short notice thing.
Sarah too, and maybe she'll come on and talk to you too.
And I don't know if Joe is with us or not, or looking. Oh, there he is. Joe's coming back to life. Are you there, Joe? Turn your mic on.
There we go. I'm there.
There he is.
Yeah, great stories, everybody. Fascinating stuff. So,
thank you.
You guys go to Lino Lakes or on one of those adventures, and I'll join you.
Okay, it sounds good.
Fantastic.
And I'm going to see you on Friday, right, Joe?
Yep.
Okay. So if anybody wants to get together Friday, we'll be around. With what that, time? Thank you so much. And Daniel,
thank you. Gosh,
check out the Cryptid Podcast.
Yep.
Can
I give me a plug?
Yeah, please plug.
All right, guys. So anybody who's still in the chat, if you'd like to be on my show, the Cryptid Podcast, you can shoot me an email at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. It's a safe place for you guys to come and share your encounters. I'd love to hear from you. And Reed, thank you so much. Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jeff and Doug, as always, I truly appreciate you guys, and I look forward to working with you and having some outings out there in the St. Croix area with Blaine coming along, and I think David said he would come along or something like that. So let's rock and roll. Whoever, someone in the chat said they'd like to come along. So
sounds good. Thank you so much, Jeff, for all the prep work and all the great directing you did.
Happy to do it.
I'm about dead because I haven't slept in 24 hours and I've got the flu.
For bed, huh?
And no, I'm not going to go to bed. I got a bunch of work I got to do, but I'm going to try to get to bed by 2.
Good luck.
What?
I'm going to try to get to bed by. I got a lot of work yet.
Doug.
But anyhow, but we love y'all. We love everybody. We
Thank you, everyone in
really
chat.
appreciate you guys spending your evening with us.
Absolutely.
We will be back next week. We didn't do Tech Breakdown. Jeff, plug it into next week. We'll just
No problem. I'll have it ready.
And sorry about that, but I think we got most everything in.
Huh.
So thank you again, Reed. Thanks so much, Joe. Thanks, Daniel.
Yes, sir.
And thank the Lord. And we will sign off. Good night,
Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Talk to you later. Thanks.
Call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine.